So, babe, here we are. We're in this Swiss chalet,
I am so excited to be in Switzerland.
and it's Hanukkah. I mean, all the snow, the sparkly lights. I'm feeling the magic. Are you feeling the magic? Hanukkah.
Come light the menorah.
You feeling it, babe?
Oh, Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather around the table,
We'll give you a treat.
Everyone to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning. Oh,
What was that? What's happening?
I don't
What's
know.
interrupting our festivities?
I thought that I heard something at the door. Do you think it's Swiss Miss? Do you think she's come with our chocolate milk?
Babe, I don't know. We got to check.
Okay. No, you know who I think it is?
Who?
I think it may be Jason.
Oh, jeez.
I forgot to tell you that I invited him over.
Ah, okay. Well, there goes our Hanukkah fun.
We can still have fun at Hanukkah, but I forgot to tell you that we had to record our sort of end
and
of
you
year.
guys are going to chat about whiskey.
We're going to chat about whiskey. Yeah.
With or without an E.
With or without an E. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite U2 song. Without the E, of course.
Okay, well, why don't you guys go chat about whiskey? I'm going to go watch Below Deck.
Fair. Thank you, honey. Oh my gosh, you won't stop knocking. Hey man, come on in. Kick your shoes off. Get relaxed. Be relaxed. Grab a glass. Join me.
Have I walked into a swingers party?
No, that swing on the other wall is meant for something completely different. It's a private thing. I thought I had that door closed.
This is a cute 70s style winter chalet you got here.
Listen, we have fondue warming up.
Yeah, I can see that.
Kitchen.
Right beside that swing, I tell you. Those are two things you don't technically want to mix. There's a heavy cheese fondue and a 1970s sex swing.
Oh, Jesus.
Talking from experience here.
Just by the way, put your keys in the fishbowl over there if you wouldn't mind.
I was going to make some reference to the size of my key, but I won't. I'll let it pass. I will let it pass.
I don't know why you would do that. I mean, that's then making innuendo. We haven't even hit innuendo territory.
Man, talking of innuendo, that's exactly what came out of me when I mixed the cheese fondue and the 70s sex swing.
That's like innuendo out the other.
Rapidly. It was a looseness, as they used to say in the 18th century. It was a looseness.
Jason, we haven't even put whiskey in our glass, and we've gone silly. We've gone the way of silly.
It's the festive season. How can you not be silly at the festive season?
It feels good, right? That just sort of like the winding down, and if you're celebrating Hanukkah, every night you're adding more candles. Things you're just feeling better and better, and then if you're celebrating Christmas, right, you get closer to that day, and it's.
You're right, though. We should have a dram.
The interesting thing is, I saw you come with a really large. Easy.
Easy. Oh my gosh! Something come with a really large something or other.
As you were pulling up to,
I came with a really large key.
Yes,
that's what we're talking about.
I watched you pull up to the chalet, and you had what looked like to be your entire whiskey collection.
It's easy when you've only got 8 bottles.
So what should we... I don't know. What are you feeling on a cold Swiss night?
It's the festive season, right?
Yeah.
I think of our dear friend Ian Allen at the Glenmurray Distillery.
Oh yeah,
often, early and often.
All right,
but especially in the festive season, what could we pour from the Glenmurray Distillery?
Man, I like that.
You did recommend the 18-year-old to me on our 5 essential drams. I think that was maybe in the honourable mention category because I was disappointed I couldn't get a Glenmurray in my necessary 5. And you told me about the 18-year-old. I bought the 18-year-old, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Do you have any 18? Nope, that's why it was only an honourable mention.
Not nearby.
Not nearby. There is one in a store local to me, but I don't own that right now.
What about the Glenmurray Peated and PX?
I have 2 of those right in my bag here.
Okay. I don't have them nearby, but I think there may be an extra bottle in the in the kitchen in this chalet. I could just run and grab it.
You go grab that one. I'll leave mine in my bag. You go grab yours.
Jason, I'm really so glad you suggested this. I brought this bottle to the chalet with me. You know, you and I bought this at the distillery. This is the Glen Murray Peated PX Finish 2010 bottling. And I never opened it. And I brought it to the chalet in case there was an opportunity to open it. And here we are. So here we go.
Well, I have not pulled my bottle out of my bag, but if I was to, you would see that I'm about halfway through my bottle of this.
Okay.
Which is rather delicious, and you and I are sharing a neck pour here, Joshua.
But you know what? I just don't believe in neck pours.
I believe in neck pours.
If you believe in them, then they have power over you. Just don't believe in them.
Right. They definitely do. There's no doubt about it. No doubt. All right. Well, cheers. Here's to a festive season, a Hanukkah, a Christmas, and a New Year.
Cheers to that.
Oh.
So here we are, Jason. This is our 6th end of year podcast. This is our wrap it up. This is our hindsight is 2020. Yeah, this is the 6th season. So I imagine that we've done it 5 times prior, didn't we?
When did we start? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and now this is 22.
6, season 6.
There you go. Had to pull out a second hand.
Oh man, oof. Go easy.
Wait till I pull out a second foot, then we're all in trouble.
I truly look forward to this episode every year. Part of it, I realize. Part of it, I either realized today or I was reminded today that part of the enjoyment of recording this podcast is not necessarily the recording, but it's the work leading up to it, and in thinking about our favorites, right? It's doing that work to look back and remember, right? And reminisce too. So yeah, it was some nice prep work.
Well, and I think part of it is we don't necessarily get a lot of opportunity to look back as the year goes on. We're always 6 months ahead, right? What needs to be pulled from a warehouse? What needs labels? What needs bottling scheduled? What needs put on a plane or a boat to get over here? It's nice to reach the end of the year and say, okay, let's take a little break from that type of thinking. Let's look back. Let's think what we've achieved. Let's think what we've put together in this year, whether it be podcast, SCN releases, non-SCN bottle enjoyment, and then the occasional question from a dedicated listener.
Yeah, actually, and it was such a nice email to come in, and I think it helped set the tone as we were having some of our preliminary conversations. Later on, we may have some special guests come on to the podcast if they can make it. It's snowy out there. I don't know if you hit some of this
treacherous
weather, right?
Treacherous. I'm glad I had my snowshoes.
But should they come, we will pose these questions to them. Should I break that email out, Jason?
Absolutely.
Okay. I had to print it out, right? Because there's no Wi-Fi up here.
I like it.
A few weeks back, we received an email from Philippe Panavong, and it actually came in.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, 'tis the season, and it came in on the 10th of December. And what I loved about it is that the subject says, "Wait!" All caps! Exclamation point! Before you do your end of year top whiskeys, and so that's the subject line. And so
That's awesome.
It's great. Yep. Grabs your attention. It grabs you by the attention. And it says, "Hi, JJJ and Eli J.
Nice.
Before you do your end-of-year rankings, I have 3 things I need to bring up. 1, why do people do top 3, top 5, or top 10 whiskeys/spirits of the year? Whiskey is, this is funny, whiskey is sold in cases of 3, 6, or 12 bottles. I'll have him know that sometimes whiskey is sold in 4-bottle cases.
That is also true.
That's true.
That is also true.
The industry counts sales in cases. We should also do all of our rankings in terms of cases. If you could fill a 6-bottle case, what are your top 6 of the year? So that's a question to consider. We'll answer that in a moment, or not answer it. And then
begin answering it.
Begin answering. Yeah, there you go. Question number 2. With the same idea, let's talk about whiskey time capsules. And this one really, I think, is going to help set the tone of the conversation here. It says, let's pretend you can make a 6-bottle case to be put away for your great-great-grandkids to find when they are of legal drinking age and taste without you there. What 6 bottles would you put in there to tell your whiskey story? And there's a little asterisk next to there, and the asterisk signifies, or maybe what 6 bottles would you put in there to teach them your palate or your choice? So I like that.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's got multiple angles to it.
Assume no one around knows anything about whiskey, and all they remember is that you loved whiskey and worked in the industry for years. The only thing you put in the case is an index card that tells the order in which they should try the bottles. What whiskeys and in what order, and what bottles would you put in a case to tell the story so far of Single Cask Nation? So my guess is the more we drink, the more we might change our answer to this, and let's hope when we translate this to our guests coming that we remember all of the facets. If not, please know we've done our very best, Philippe.
There's no chance of us remembering all the facets, none at all. Our listeners know not to expect that of us. I tell you what, though.
Yeah.
I feel like there's 2 distinct questions here, and I know that over the course of today we will go down the path of that personal exploration of the 6. But there's this: what 6 bottles tell the story of Single Cask Nation? I think that's a very interesting second and secondary question.
Oh yeah.
And so I know that for my 6 to leave for future generations, I know I tried to limit it. I didn't want to make it 6 SCN. But there's at least 1 SCN in there that I think really defines my whiskey journey writ large. So I have leaned on that a little bit, but I'm kind of interested, Joshua, if we were to split up 6 bottles that tell the SCN story, what 3 would you identify?
I think first and foremost, we'd have to lead with the SCN Aaron 12-year-old Pinot cask, right? I mean, here we are, these 2 guys that said, 3 guys. Let's be clear. It was you, me. It was Seth Glaskin. And when we started this company, it was Isle of Arran Distillers that had said, we want to be your first.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So I don't think the Single Cask Nation story as it stands today can be told without that, with a distillery that had our back from the get-go and continues to have our back, right? I think it's so 100%.
Special. Yep, we agree on that. We've really shared our first pick.
Oh, okay. Okay. I would then... I'd have to include a Jubilee bottling.
This is why we're of one mind. This is why it's J&J Spirits. Yep, go on. What's yours?
Right. And my gut tells me, if I had time to sit and think, which I don't, but if I had time to sit and think, I may have a different story. Because I don't, much like the Aaron, it has to be the 15-year-old Heaven Hill.
Oh, interesting. Okay, this is good. I've got a Jubilee that fits the Aaron bill the way you've just described it.
Oh, interesting.
Which isn't the Heaven Hill. But I don't disagree with your Heaven Hill. Like, you're clearly spot on there.
But similarly, right? I mean, you and I were considering having a bottling and trying to figure out legally how we could do a festival bottling when, navigating the 3-tiered system within the U.S. is a hard proposition. That's why no one had done it before.
And that was the clincher for us, right? They weren't a part of American festivals. They were a part of European festivals.
Correct. And when I think back to the conversation that we had with Larry Cass of Heaven Hill Distillers, he said, you guys are the Jewish whiskey company. He says, we're a Jewish distillery. Like, we want to be part of the Jubilee. And when we put those two pieces together, like 1 and 1 equaled a festival bottling, and they became our partners. And so it's in that spirit. And then finally, I would have to say it's got to be an idea that you had for the Woodcut series and our love of 80s Bowmore, and just, when it comes to the Woodcut series, Imperial was really my thing because I'm an Imperial fanatic.
Yeah.
But 80s Bowmore is our thing. And the Woodcut was your thing, and it was such a brilliant idea. And I think, though we had been an independent bottler at that point for, 7 years, bottling a 30-year-old 80s Bowmore, I kind of felt like, okay, we've arrived, right? We're finally serious, even though we had been serious for some time, but...
And the label from Mo was just
Mo,
everything we could have hoped for and imagined. And I felt like that elevated what was already a good idea and a good application of the idea. That just took it to another level, as Mo tends to do for us. Yeah. Which is true of that Heaven Hill bottling, right? For the first Jubilee Festival bottling. She elevated what we had going on there, and that became an entire series of labels that then ran through the Jubilee.
12 bottlings, yeah.
So you've named 2 of my 3. Two of the first 3 that come to mind for me. For if you only had 6, and we haven't done the numbers recently, but we're probably somewhere around 150 total bottlings for SCN.
Is it does that
ROW, Europe,
and
retail?
Jubilee? Does it include Jubilee?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, first Aaron, absolutely for the reasons you just named. The first of the Woodcut for the reasons you just named. My Jubilee bottling goes down the path that you'd gone with the Aaron there, which was the passion and the enthusiasm and the willingness to fight for us and believe in us that came from Robin Cooper.
Yeah.
And Robin Cooper really going to bat for us there and really believing in what the Jubilee was doing and we were doing, and independent bottling and the enthusiasm from our attendees. That really kicked off our relationship with Wild Turkey. And it's interesting because I think that's the only relationship we had, and I could be wrong in saying this, but I think it's the only relationship we had that went from Jubilee bottling into single cask nation bottling. We had the opposite, where we had a single cask nation relationship with Westland, that then led to a Jubilee bottling. But I think that Wild Turkey's the only one that went from Jubilee to SCN. And, as we've said a million times, the relationship that we've got there, the ability to independently bottle Wild Turkey in our own bottle with our own label, just continues to mean so much. And when we pitch up at the distillery, Eddie gives us a warm welcome. Bruce gives us a warm welcome, right? When we talk to Robin Cooper, it's always on the up and up. It's always a great relationship. Dave Ensler, when he was still with Wild Turkey before he moved on to Sazerac, great relationship there. So that first Wild Turkey bottling for the Jubilee, I think, is one of those 6 that really tell the SCN story. And then, having mentioned our Westland relationship, for me, one of the 6 has to be the 2-year-old Westland that was heavily peated, heavily sherried. That was the very first moment you and I had said, some people will love it, some people will hate it. But it's so very, very good that those who love it will really be head over heels for it. And those who don't love it, it'll be perfectly fine if they don't love it. They'll be able to drink something else. I felt like that was a watershed moment for us.
It felt like such a risk. Like at that time, we simply couldn't afford to sit on bottles. We had to sell everything we needed to sell. And I mean, truth be told, I mean, that's how businesses are, right? You make products, you've got to sell them. Now I think we're a bit more comfortable where we are. It's nice to have some bottles on the website now for people to pick up casually, that we haven't had that sort of luxury, and now we can sit there a bit more comfortably. But those early days, man, holy free holies.
No, there was definitely a chance being taken there. So I think that gives us 5. So that gives us first Arran, a Heaven Hill for the Jubilee, the first Wild Turkey for the Jubilee, the Bowmore that kicked off the Woodcut series, and whatever we just finished talking about just now.
The Westland. Wow, that Glen Murray really hit you, dude.
My brain's trying to think of the 6th while I was counting the 5, and I pulled it off for 4 of the 5, but not the 5th.
That sounds like 11. No, sorry. 5, 6.
So
yes.
So.
Oh, so what's your 6th? Yeah, what's the?
So this is the scary part, right? When you name the first 5, there's always a bottle coming after. If you really screw it up, there's a bottle coming after. When you get to the 6th, this is the last one you get to name. This is the. All right. Oh, really? You picked that one and not this one over here. Oh, really? You said that distillery, not that distillery over there. That's interesting.
I have one. I have one that I think really helps to tell the story. The problem is, for most people, it simply didn't exist, though people knew about it. And that was our Lafroig that we bottled in honor of Mike Walsh. Right? Good friend to the nation. Like a really a mentor for people looking to get into whiskey. And we bottled 60 bottles in honor of him. He passed from COVID early doors. And I think, I'll say this really quickly. I was on a live Instagram with this guy, Frank. His handle is Burb Your Enthusiasm, which is a great name. And the thing that brightened the conversation most for me was the talk of charity and the talk of doing some of the good things that we don't often talk about. And I think those are some of the more fulfilling things. And I think doing that bottling for Mike talks about us as people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bottling. I think we're just 2 guys who give a shit, and we also happen to bottle whiskey.
Yeah, I think that's a great open-ended 6th entry, is charitable bottling. In this instance, it was the one for Mike Walsh. As you're talking, I'm thinking about the Selway Bitterroot Frank Church Foundation.
The Good Ride
bottling that we did. Yeah. Right? We raised $4,000 for SBFC there. Got to work with Moscow Jim on that one. Yeah. A long time, very, very dear friend of mine. And then it took me out into the wilderness this past summer, 2022 summer. Got to be in the Frank Church. So, I like that. That's a good way to close out the 6th, is charitable bottling. That really captures, like you say, what we're about and what's important to us. So, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really like that. That's good, Joshua. All right, there we go. We did it. Six bottlings that define SCN.
There we go. I love it. Okay, so I mean, so there's things that we have to cover here, right? We now have the 6-bottle case that represent us and our palates or things that just talk about us being in whiskey. We have that we've got to cover. We've got to cover our SCN bottling of the year. We've got to cover our just whiskey writ large of the year. And then we've got to cover our episode of the year. And like I said, we may have some guests coming up. So checks in the mail. No thanks, nobody's home.
Keep walking.
Yeah, right? Like they won't leave. They're just knocking, Jason.
What if this person has written out the words on cards a la Love Actually, and they don't know they're about to be on a podcast?
Oof, I haven't seen that before, but I can picture it. Ryan Gosling, wet, with a notebook. No, that's the Notebook. Anyway, this person...
Answer the door.
All right. Oh, hey, Jess. That's your cue.
She has written it down.
I've written it all on cards. This is where this is a great feature for an audio podcast. Can you not audio insert the painstaking notes that I've written out, a la Love Actually?
So wait a second. We've invited you onto this podcast to talk about your favorite whiskeys, your favorite, this, that, and the other thing, and you've come to do like a Bob Dylan, Johnny's in the basement mixing up some medicine video where he's just showing the cards?
It is one of my favourite movies, though. I realise that instantly cancels me from any credibility I ever had with my film knowledge score of 2. It's one of my favourite films, even though it's very problematic.
Did you hear us talking about... You heard us talking about Love Actually while you were on the other side of the door?
What else would you be talking about at Christmas? Unless we're talking about The Holiday, we can do that too. You could be... This could be like the Ellie sequence where they go to where she goes to the very fancy house and Jack Black just turns up and sings to her. We can do that too.
Jack Black's in Love Actually?
No, he's in The Holiday. Now I'm mixing all the films up just to confuse you.
We've got The Notebook, we've got The Holiday, we've got Love Actually. How about we talk whiskey?
There
Sounds
you go.
safer,
I like
much
that.
safer.
much safer.
So
yes,
Jason and I have just been talking about. Well, I mean, this is our end of year podcast. What's our favorite non-SCN whiskey? What's our favorite SCN whiskey? What was our favorite episode of the year? Right, these are the things that we talk about all the time. So if you have some things in the chamber that you wanted to bring to our attention, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I've literally come all the way across the world to knock on your collective one house that you live in with my Love Actually flashcards to be Andrew Lincoln. Yes, I hope you are excited for my non-conclusive list of things.
Nope. See, this is what I have to do with Joshua. I have to hold feet to the fire.
It's very difficult.
It has to be conclusive, right?
Insanely difficult.
Yeah.
I'm already, that's the wrong way to phrase it, but I'm clearly having difficulties with my own singular identifiable bottle. It is difficult, but it's a good exercise, Jess.
I think it sounds more like a bragging exercise of like, here are all the things I've drunk this year. Is that what you're aiming for? Honestly, it was a panic. When you if you've ever been for a job interview, I should say, and at the end they say, do you have any questions for us? And I've never once come up with a sensible. I've always been like, no, that's my contribution for today. And like, what's the best thing you've drunk this year? I'm like, I've never even heard of whiskey. What is it? Tell me more about it.
Oh, so you just become a deer in a headlight, right? You just kind of freeze.
I've got like this little Rolodex of nice things I've had, and I'm like, how do you pick one without upsetting everyone else?
This is the challenge. This is exactly it. Isn't this exciting? But you can have an absolute favourite that you would return to, that you would take to a desert island. You can also have an honourable mention.
Oh, good, because I've got about 8 or 9 of them.
Right? No. This is why I think the exercise is so good, because when you do have to name that one, I think it really does burrow down on why. Why did I like this? And why would I pick this as my absolute best?
Yep.
So I am going to continue to hold your feet to the fire, Jess.
I see
Right
how-
next to the chestnuts.
I like that you're holding her to it. Hopefully you'll pay a bit less attention to me.
Nope.
No.
Even myself, and this is why I throw myself into this as well. I have 3 whiskies in the running for my SCN of the year, and I could easily pick any of the 3, potentially 4, and be very, very happy with it. But I'm really asking myself, what's the number one? What's the number one, and why is it the number one? So, Jess, let's start easy. Let's go out into the bigger, broader world. What's a favourite non-SCN of the year for you?
A favorite or the favorite? It's the
he said a favourite, but holding him to it.
He did. This is why he's not good with the English language sometimes.
With the words. Well, I can
Wow,
tell
you
you.
know it's going to be a good Christmas when Joshua's taking the grammar high ground. Okay.
This
Hey,
is like
that's your
opposites
holiday,
day.
not
I'm
mine.
so confused. I can tell you in the last week, one of the favourite things I have drunk in the last week, which, bearing in mind I was hosting my own whiskey tasting last night. I'm not sure how that speaks to what I chose for that. But in the last week, I've had some really very nice Glenfarclas 1977.
There you go.
And
That's
as
a very
I love
good
as
mic
we,
drop.
we, the podcast listeners, love a context. I was drinking, well, I was nosing it because I was driving, but I got to drink it later, at the distillery in the snow.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's
I
not
Oh
feel
my
like that's
gosh.
a solid entry, right? It's not my favourite, but in the last week.
See, right? But then it doesn't count, right? It's got to be your favorite. You're just dropping mics.
Yeah, that's a significant.
feel like
The fact that that's not your favourite whiskey of the year is astounding to me. Would you make that your honourable mention?
I have 3 honourable mentions. Can I have that? This feels a bit like everyone gets a prize, right? I think I do have a definitive answer, but I have like 3 things that I really chewed over for a bit. So that's 1. Very difficult to beat that. 2 was a very generous pour of an Adelphi Bunnahabhain 31 at Maltstock. After I had told everybody about my food pairings on whiskey explorations. So I had that with kebab and Dark as My Soul Bunnahabhain 31. So that was a lot of fun. That was a very, very generous, very lovely thing. And then my 3rd honourable mention, and then I'll stop horsing around, was Kalila from 1984. That's part of the Gordon and MacPhail private collections, you know, in the really pretty Art Deco bottles that come in these wooden boxes. It looks like parquet flooring. That was from our very lovely and dear to us friends in Malmö when we were over there in September. And that was really lovely. They've just got our friends have an insane collection, and we like to wind people up with what we drink with them. So, but that was like 1984. Kalila.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Job done, podcast listeners. They're like, where's the button where you skip 30 seconds at a time with this interview? Shut her up. So those are my 3 honourable mentions. I do think probably today, right now, in the cold, my favourite thing I've drunk this year so far, because we're not at the end, there is time, is the new Bowmore Distillers Anthology bottling, which is seriously good, mid-90s Bowmore, like everything I want, sherry, punchy. Yeah, it's making my mouth water thinking about it. Does that count? Yeah, I'm going to say that's it.
Quick question for you, right? Because Bowmore has changed over the decades, and Bowmore and sherry, I think that's where the changes have been kind of more noticeable. And sometimes Bowmore and sherry is really dirty, heavy, earthy, grimy in a great way. And then sometimes it's really fruity and bright. And so where does that fall on the Bowmore scale?
probably annoyingly in the middle. It's definitely got some real heaviness to it. It's a 20-something-year-old Bowmore, and it's obviously been in sherry, so there is a decent amount of dirt in there. But I always think of this, and I get laughed at a little bit, I always think of Bowmore as being like this kind of elegant smoke. So there's some real peaty monsters hiding on the island, and some not so peaty monsters hiding on the island. And I always think Bowmore's got this slightly like regal smoke attached to it. Like, you know, the smoke is there and it is prevalent in when you drink it and when you taste it, but it's not necessarily going to leap out the glass and punch you in the face like some of its neighbours. And for that reason, I really love it. I really love the direction I think the team are going through with the whiskey. Now, if you were to ask me, do I prefer Bowmore in sherry or bourbon, I would have to witter for a good 3 or 4 hours. So please don't ask me that question. My answer for now, for brevity's sake, is that I think the Distiller's Anthology is one of my favourite things I have drunk this year. Quick, move on.
Okay.
Distiller's Anthology. Okay.
Great.
That's in the books. It's on wax. Thank you, Jess.
So Jason, the next one is kind of tricky, right? Because usually when we talk about our favorite SCN bottling, it typically tends to be more American or bottlings for the U.S. focused. But Jess, a lot of your job is focusing on bottlings outside the U.S. But you know, all SCN is SCN, right? So you could choose from the UK EU bottlings or the US bottlings. So it's wide open for you.
I'm hoping she's going to choose the one I think she's going to choose.
Okay.
Okay, birthday buddy, sending you the vibes. Let's see.
Okay.
I think we
crossed
agree.
here.
So I've got a really lovely cop-out here, which is that due to, and then each of these words is capitalised, the global logistics situation. If you could put like some sort of reverb on that when I say it. The global logistics situation.
Done.
Keen listeners of the podcast may notice that there has been an absence of ROW. So that gives me a lovely get-out clause that I feel a lot of the pressure there is lifted off. I have had, and don't tell everybody this, I get the privilege of snaffling little partial bottles sometimes before they escape to the US. So sometimes
indeed.
I get the very special privilege of sharing with loads of people all at the same time at Maltstock, at whiskey festivals, bottles that haven't made it to the US yet. So I do think that the new woodcut is pretty good.
Oh,
partly because I like, not just because I like the label, though I'm a sucker for the label. I really loved our accidental Dalyuen. That was great. Because I really like Dalyuen. I think it's a very underrated whiskey. And I get...
Are we in honourable mention territory right now?
Unlabeled.
Are we in a
Unlabeled.
listing of some favourites?
So
Are we building to the number one?
Yeah, that's how you do it. You know, like when you watch Top of the Pops, which I'm sure all the kids still do, they don't just tell you number one and say, well, job's done, lads, go home. So I thought that was really fun. I'm in two minds whether or not I want to tell people to drink more Dalyuen because it means there's less for us. At the same time, then they will stop being like Dalyuen or something.
Right.
That one. Point.
Yep. The one that starts with D.
Yeah. That's not the other one. That's the D. Right. Anyway. So.
Please, let's not talk about the D right now.
Paging HR.
It's good.
I'm getting uncomfortable.
We've made it into question 2 before HR were contacted. So I think Jason knows that my real answer is my little cask mess around project, my Lechagan cognac.
I was waiting for that.
I really had to think about whether or not I wanted to tell this because I can feel certain regular correspondents of the Padcasts already reaching for their keyboards.
Yeah.
So, seasonal greetings to Messrs. Nolan. Sorry. It's in the UK and you have to be in my house to drink it, or at Maltstock, or in Jason's house. I imagine he's probably got it by now.
So let's...
I don't.
For the sake of the listener, could you explain this Lechig in cognac? Which hasn't
Yes.
been released yet.
Which I keep telling everybody, don't tell Josh and Jason that I'm pouring you this. It's the world's worst kept secret. So, I am...
This is going to end up with an Angel share of about 40%.
Yeah.
Best case scenario.
When the regauge comes in, it's going to be 3 miniatures. I am a massive fan of Bunnahabhain. So this is slightly tangential, but come with me on this journey. So I love Bunnahabhain, and there have been a couple of releases of Bunnahabhain that were in cognac casks that were amazing. And so, as I'm sure the listeners by now know, we had access to some cognac casks. And when we took the liquid out, I wanted to put some Bunnahabhain in. But turns out there's none of that available. So I'll put it on my list to Santa. Dear Santa, I would like a pony and 6 casks of Bunnahabhain. So we were looking at the inventory and what we had, and I wanted that kind of... I wanted ideally a smoky Bunnahabhain to work with the kind of cognac, because I think that sweet and smoky can be a great combination. And we happen to have some Lecheik. So we put that in a cognac cask. And I keep having to check on it for quality purposes. Sometimes quality purposes are 6 bottles a go. But we have to be very thorough in this. I mean, it'd be very embarrassing if we released it and it was rubbish. So, yeah, my it's a bit grandiose, isn't it, calling it like my cask project, as if I've got it's one cask that I'm playing with, and by playing with, I'm letting it sit in a warehouse and then I'm drinking it regularly.
Am I right in saying you poured it for the first time at the Watts Open Day in Campbelltown?
If you would like to think that's the first time I've cracked open that cask, then...
Wow, I thought that was the first time too.
Oh, it's been a long 2022. Oh, it was February, wasn't it?
I think it was actually February. I think I put it at Glasgow's Whisky Festival first.
I think you did, yeah.
It was the first time we did it. And then it went for a little journey to Campbelltown. And then it went for a little journey to Maltstock.
I really mean it when I say, we keep saying it hasn't been released yet. I just don't think there's going to be bottles for release. But it's worth searching out Jess at a whiskey festival, because there might be some Lecheik cognac very near to her.
I'm going to stop taking it to festivals. I'm going to stop being generous and sharing it with people. It's mine now. So that's my, I'm going to call it my get out clause, which is actually very unsatisfactory, has not helped us with sales of anything, and has probably annoyed 2/3 of the people listening to this conversation. We could discuss what colour it is, if that would help you, because I know how that's a great segment.
You could argue it's upset 2/3 of the people on this, meeting.
On this podcast, yeah.
If I had been more prepped, I would have just had a bottle to wave at you in our camera. But I don't. I'm not that organised.
That would have
you
really
just have to
wound us
imagine
up.
it like this instead. So,
well, that's delightful, really delightful.
But I know what's coming, or I know our plan for some things that are coming, I should say, before I'm held to what I've said in this podcast. Again, hello Michael Nolan for writing all these things that I forget down. So there's some really cool stuff coming, and I'm very excited about some projects we have. So maybe when you ask me this next year, I'll have a real answer that's not a thing you can't get hold of.
Fingers crossed. So the other thing that I'd let you know that we want to talk about actually comes from our good friend in California, Philippe Panavong. And tis the season for Philippe Panavong, indeed. And he asked this wonderfully challenging question that I did want to give you some lead time on. So I know you have come in the door somewhat prepared today, but if you were putting together a 6-pack of whiskies for future generations to learn about Jess Lomas, whiskey palate, baker, whatever avenue you go down here, hashtag girlboss. Do you have 6? Was that an even more impossible task than naming your favourite whiskey of 2022?
It has given me the sweats. So I've tried to go for a bit of everything. Some obtainable, some unobtainable. Nothing in here is made up. I haven't totally lost it. Although I think if you'd left me long enough to think about this, I would have started inventing like Jericho spirit from whatever, lost. So I've gone for everything on this list is something I've actually drunk, because I feel like that seems like a fair requisite. If you come back and ask me in half an hour, I probably would have most of these the same, but some not.
Oh, wow.
Do you want them in any particular... particular order? No, let's go no order.
Are you going to individually tell us the reason for?
Yeah,
for
in
that
short,
bottle?
don't worry. I know this podcast is already 7 or 8 hours long because it's a festive
I'm
edition,
ready.
right? Okay, so top of my list, and this was genuinely the first thing that I thought of. I would put in there a little cheeky bottle of Kilchoman Sanig.
Oh yeah.
Because I love Kilchoman and I've enjoyed a lot of Sanig recently. And whilst I would normally have said bourbon Kilchoman and the really fun mezcal stuff, I've just found this like just a really delicious sit around and chat with somebody.
I'm laughing because you got honourable mentions into your 6-pack.
No. It's an actual answer. It's an explanation. It's a show you're working. That's what we're on. For maximum
Could have
credit.
been bourbon. I like those. Could have been the mezcal cast. I like those too. But it's just an egg.
But honestly, when you said 6, I thought like that was the first thing that came to mind, and then I started trying to talk myself around why I'd picked that one. That's the answer. So number 1, Kilchoman Sanig.
Okay, I like it. Good start.
Number 2, I would have to have some Springbank in there because what's 2022 without some Springbank, right?
Yeah.
And I have
A fatter
really
wallet. That's what it is.
more hair, less stress, less gnashing of the teeth.
Going to give future generations something to put into auction.
Oh shit! Did not consider.
You're looking
that.
out for the children.
If I'm honest with you, this 6-pack would just be like some crumbs and a label that would say you should have been here earlier. So we've got some Springbank in here, and I've had some really cool Springbanks and Sauternes this year, and I just really love Sauternes.
Nice. There you go.
If I was going to do a cast project part 2, there'd be some Sauternes in it. So yeah, and I feel like that's a nice all-rounder. Didn't need too much explanation. If you don't like that, you don't get to continue through my 6-pack. That's
Yes, Springbank Sauternes.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I'll take it.
I thought I would shove in there a Lagavulin from the Fesh in 2020, so that's the 20-year-old. I feel like
was
at
the
least one
casking
person in this
on
call
that?
was not that bothered. It's just American oak and rejuvenated, I want to say. All I know is that we've drunk 2 bottles of it, and I think you hated it.
I didn't hate it. The problem with it was you and Swede Scott were like, oh, this is the best thing in the world. And I'm like, oh my God, if they think this is great, then it must be great. And it ended up being a perfectly fine Lagavulin. But it just didn't, it wasn't like, like, ooh, this is an annual celebration. We're going to bottle the best of the best. It just seemed like another Lagavulin. And Lagavulin's it's my favorite Isla distillery, and so I was just sort of, you let me down, Jess.
Oh God, that is so. I feel like I've been stabbed. Okay, so in context, we were all in lockdown, so even if it hadn't been the most amazing thing in the world, it was a little refresher of Isla. I stand by it. I think it was great, and it is
Good on
something
you.
that Chris and I have drunk 2 bottles of it, which tells you it must be pretty good because it's not very often we go through that. And also, I think we must have been so into it that even my mother said she would buy me a bottle of it, which that is quite some praise. And also, when I've been doing, stand by this, when I've been doing some world whiskey judging, I've been very lucky enough to meet the master blender behind it, and he was really excited about it. So maybe we caught the hype from Craig, the lovely Craig Wilson, and so we bought into it. I don't know, man. I just really liked it. I also don't have the context of the legendary Lagavulin 21 to put it on a sliding scale of.
Yeah.
And I think
But you
in
have
your
had
head
the
you
you've had
layer
it.
it against that.
But I was going to say you've had the 2015 fish eel, which seems far
So
superior
that
to
was
the 2020.
that was an honourable mention.
But
As
Jess,
a Lagavulin replacement in my head.
weren't you with us in 2017 during the swim when that guy sat down with us?
No.
Weren't you with
I had
us?
gone home. I had to leave. My friend was getting married. Otherwise, you can bet your ass I would have refused to leave the entire trip.
Yeah, okay. Because I remember us being on Isla together. I forgot that you had left early. And
That's
missed
really
out
sweet
on
that you've written me into that memory. I think that's warm and fuzzies without the delicious taste of Lagavulin.
Is the friend still married?
Yes.
There you go. So you missed it for a worthy reason.
Okay. An honourable
All right, number
excuse.
4.
Number 4, as we are moving through our list, I feel like I needed to have some sort of 1989 bottle in here because of our Project 1989, which was the ridiculous party for our 30th birthday. So of the batch, I thought I would put in the Bowmore that I queued all night for. I queued something crazy like 30 hours for this bottle. It's a single cask Bowmore, 1989, and it is in bourbon. And it's just a tropical fruit bomb with a little bit of smoke in it. It is delicious.
Any FWP in there?
Nah, not a trace.
No? Okay. Oh,
Which
wow.
is odd given the era it's from, but I think that's maybe slightly deliberate. I feel like maybe David Turner decided no FWP for this one. Or maybe that cask just didn't have it. I'm not sure. But it is really good, and I was very sad when we finished that bottle.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Forgive me if I missed the detail. Once you started talking about queuing all night, my mind really went to a horrific place. Which fish?
2018.
2018. Okay.
And it wasn't too midgy, and it was dry that night, so we didn't get rained on. I can tell you, I would not have queued in the rain. It was just a whimsical moment of, yeah, let's do it.
Cues and whimsy do not make comfortable bedfellows in my head, but you do you, Jess. You do
and
you.
I told my mum the bottle cost me £100, and she said that was a lot of money. So she doesn't need to know the real price ticket on that.
Yeah, I was going to say that didn't really cost you
there's
£100,
no way it was only
did it?
£100.
Like,
Everybody
wow.
everyone listening's like, £100 in 2018. Why were we not there? It was not £100.
Okay.
But it was my birthday, and I had to have it. So
All right,
Yeah,
and then, a nice 1989 Bowmore. That's a great addition. I like that a lot.
it's a tasty number. And then I feel like I need to go outside of the UK, and it would be heavily remiss of me if I didn't make my non-UK option. I realised that wasn't a rule, but I made it a rule.
Yeah,
It'd be embarrassing if I didn't put a Westland in this box of 6. So,
There you go. That checks out. Yeah.
so I picked. Are you ready for another disclaimer? I picked Raven, the Black Raven bottling.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100.
That was
It's
like the one with the
so good.
cherries and the stout. And
Yeah. Oh, no argument at all.
No, that was
Also,
brilliant.
I thought it was a bit too brown nosy if I picked the Westland that we were involved the cask pick of the second 2-year-old. The thing that really introduced me to Westland. I thought that was a bit too brown nosy, but definitely very close second place for my Westland spot. So
I hear you. Oh, gosh. So what did you... I know we're all in agreement here. What did you particularly like about the Black Raven?
I really like it because it's got my preferred mash bill. So it's the 5 malt mash bill. And that's my favourite type of Westland, I think. So to me, in my head, that makes it the most Westlandy, which is obviously a word. And then just that combination of casks is absolutely bonkers, and it really works. The tartness that you get from the cherries, but then it's got that kind of like slightly stiffer beery backbone to it. It's great, and I obviously advocate #drink responsibly, but I really could just drink that with a straw straight out the bottle. I'd make it a paper straw to save the turtles, but
there you
a
go.
straw
Yep.
nonetheless.
Well, and in this instance, you get to say, unscrew the cap on a Friday, recycle the bottle on a Monday. We don't get to say that every day.
That's very true. Or recycle it on a Sunday.
Hey.
You could wait till Monday to recycle it. I suppose that is
Yeah.
also an option,
They
depending
don't
on your
pick up the
recycling
bins on
routine
a
in your
Sunday.
house. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great selection. I really like that one.
My final spot. I was like, okay, so for the future people, there has to be a dose of ridiculousness in this box. So that space. This is obviously not going to be a regular 6-pack carton because it's enormous. The last space in the box would have to go to a malt like a 75-year-old.
Oh, wow.
Right. I like how you're taking this home with a mic drop after kind of coming out the gates with a mic drop.
This, and one unicorn.
Right.
That's great, though, yeah.
You didn't give me a budget.
And that's the thing, right? I like the fact that it's not just here's something antiquated that goes in the box for the future generations, but here's something that you had with chicken nuggets in Las Vegas.
Indeed.
That has a connection to you that goes in the box.
I
really
believe
like
you call
that.
them chicken tenders, but I very much the
this
same
is-
effect. I don't know. I think it's also, you need to have a slight dose of ridiculous in it. Mortlach is one of my favourite distilleries, regardless of it being the oldest single malt at the time. It's not now. But I just like the idea of we're taking some history with us. I think it's crazy when you think about these liquids that are. There's obviously a few notable whiskies that are lasting that kind of insane age. I just think it's amazing that these casks have sat through the world absolutely turning on its head and changing. And at the end, there's still something recognisable to us as a whiskey that's 10 years old. I just find that continually mind-blowing that whiskey has this ability to cross time and space and literally space, I guess, if it's Ardbeg. But I think that's really interesting. So, and it's really pretty. That's not awesome. My reason for putting it in the box.
Yeah. All right, for the benefit of our listeners, list your 6 again for us.
So we have a Kilham and Sanig because it's delicious, but it also meant I could spend loads of budget on Mortlach. That's not what it's at. We've got Springbank Sauternes casks. We've got the Bowmore from the festival in 2018. That's my birth year. We've got a Westland Black Raven because it is magical juice. Please make more of that. We've got the Lagavulin that I thought was brilliant that Joshua was like, it's acceptable. And then I've got one 75-year-old.
Boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's a
I am
great
so excited to see
six-pack.
how this 6-pack compares to everyone else's.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I travelled across America to turn up at your doorstep to have it written on a piece of card. Which one of you is Keira Knightley, by the way? Which one of you am I supposed to be wooing?
I'm Keira Knightley, I think.
Okay.
We'll fight about this internally within the rest of the podcast. Let's kick you back out the door into the snow, but before you go, we're going to get you out of here the same way we get regular guests of the podcast out of here. What are you excited about for 2023, Jess Lomas?
Oh no, shit, this is the have you got any other questions question. I am very excited about
other than the Lecheg cognac.
I'm very excited to continue traversing the world of the global logistics situation and maybe having some new glass. That would be fun. I'm excited about putting some things into said glass and shipping it all around the world. Very excited about picking casks. That sounds fun. But maybe being allowed outside of the UK to look at some whiskies that are not in the UK. I feel like this section should be vague, right? Insert your own answer to what I'm sort of shaping an answer to. Yeah, I'm very excited about putting some more single cask nation into glasses of people that I get the pleasure of meeting, because that's always fun. And then, I think drinking some more of that really tasty Lecheg. Well,
those are all fantastic, and we look forward to doing them with you in 2023. For the moment, Jess, I raise my Dalla Horse glass to you.
Oh, thanks, little Sven. That's lovely.
Thanks for being with us in 2022, and here's to 2023.
There you go.
Cheers, Jess.
I'm going back into the snow now. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a lovely, lovely visit from Jess. I'll tell you though, opening and closing that door, I've got a little bit of chill about me.
Yeah, it's.
I'm ready for another dram and maybe a chance to get a bit closer to the fire here.
Yeah, should we throw a log on the fire?
Yeah, you throw the log on the fire. I'm going to go ahead and pour my SCN of the year and see if you can guess.
Oh, so you've got it in a paper bag then. Okay. Now, Jason, my question to you...
For listeners, it's not a paper bag, just for the benefit of listeners.
It's a paper bag. It's a pair of wool gloves with the fingertips cut off. You've brought a stick with you. A sausage. That dog.
Listen,
from
I'm a dude
Lady and the
walking
Tramp.
from Swiss. I'm a dude walking from Swiss Chalet to Swiss Chalet. I'm not going to say I'm not a hobo, but. All right, here we go.
So my question for you is: did you bring your? So obviously we have a single cask nation whiskey of the year. Did you bring your runner-up as well?
Not to drink.
Okay.
Just to discuss.
Okay.
And once you see this,
Yeah.
you will know that I have done a Hatton pour just to make it easier for us both to judge the colour of this whiskey.
Okay. That's me pouring mine. Ooh,
I will say, now that we're starting to warm up here, I did love Jess's selection there.
Oh my gosh. I like the way she thinks about whiskey.
Oh, very much
Yeah.
so. Very much so.
So, by the way, I don't know if you noticed the glass that I have, Jason. It's my
Lovely.
it's my Jason glass, my broken heart Jason glass. I see you didn't bring yours.
No, I
Take
always
note, Travis.
travel with a 6-pack of single cast nation glasses. Now available on our website. Plug. Moving on.
All right, so let's see the color of your whiskey. All right. There you go. Now take.
Oh, is that? Have you poured your
I
SCN
have
of
poured
the year?
my SCN of the year as well.
Okay. Wow, they seem to be
They
similar
seem to be
colors.
similar colors. Do we want to explain to our listeners So let's do this. Let's do this, Jason. I am going. You let us know what the color of your whiskey is. You give us some tasting notes. I will then think of what it is, and then I'm going to do the same. And then on the count of 3, because the color looks similar here, and then on the count of 3, we will say aloud what we think the other person's whiskey is.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
give me color, give me nose, give me palate, give
So,
me finish.
so the color to me is a rich walnut, perhaps a deep mahogany.
Okay. Yep. That paints a picture.
Painting the picture with words. Here we are. I will say in our chalet here with the door open, it is a little chilly. The nose is on this bottle is a little chill at the moment.
All right.
And so I might cup a little. I will say the walnut that I made mention of in the color is also present on the nose. So.
Okay. So we're making an assumption here that there's sherry cask presence. Yeah.
Seems to be between the color and maybe a little fudginess on the nose. Maybe a little. What's your fudge of choice, Joshua?
I like a Panouche fudge, like that kind
There
of.
it is. There it is. Maybe a pickled walnut, if you will.
You know I love the pickled walnuts, Jason. You know I love the pickled walnuts. So good.
I love the fact that when we're out and about, people will ask us about pickled walnuts in person. Oh, there it is. Oh,
Yeah. Do you warm it up? Jason,
that is starting to. That is doing the job. So it is.
All right, go ahead.
Do you ever get it?
Yeah.
I know that I'm crippled with more self-doubt than you are, but do you ever get it in these end of year moments when you ask yourself, we did release this year, right? Do you ever ask yourself that question?
Oh, all the time.
Okay, because that's exactly where I am right now. I'm like, I'm certain it was this year.
And-
when there's 12 months to cover, it's a lot of months.
Well, it's only exacerbated by the fact that we lived through 2.5 years of COVID. At the time, growing rest of the world bottlings, right? There's so many different bottlings to be thinking about between rest of world, between online, between retail. So yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, which is why when you said, maybe we've done around 150, 160 casks, like that doesn't seem like enough to me. Like, are you sure? Because it feels like there was much more than that. I
did just double check the bottling month. And I am very pleased to say it is 2022.
Okay. That's good.
All right, what else do you want from me, Joshua?
Well, so I
a little
got
bit more on the nose, maybe.
I got
maybe a little
Panouche.
espresso coffee bean.
All right.
Yeah, there's maybe a little licorice
All right.
around the edges, a little black licorice, which something I'm very partial to.
Mm-hmm.
I I might be talking myself into a little roasted fennel. Not convinced that's there.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
here we are. Here we are at the end of the year, festive season. A lot of vegetables are being roasted.
Oh,
Why not roast some
yeah.
fennel? It's a delicious vegetable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That I think that gives me. Oh, geez. I look up as I'm thinking and talking aloud, about to tell you, take a sip so you can give us the tasting notes. And there you are taking a sip so you could tell us the tasting notes.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joshua. Since I'm sitting here sipping on this, and we may very well have the same thing, why don't you give us your colour on yours and your nose on yours?
I would argue that well, mine's also a darker color, but I feel as if it's tough to tell, right? Because, the lighting on your side of the room is a little different than the lighting on my side of the room. In this cold Swiss Chalet air can be difficult. I would argue that this is that there's a deepness to it. I would say it's almost mahogany, but where mahogany has bits of almost a blushness to it, I would argue that this doesn't have that so much. How's that? All right, so on the nose.
I'm still drinking mine.
So on the nose, I'm getting, yesterday's coffee grinds. I'm getting a little bit of chicory. Those are the things that pop out at you immediately. But then there's a little crushed fig. There's some white pepper going on in there. Oh wow, there's I would even argue a Mounds bar, right? A little dark chocolate,
And
little
so,
coconut going on. American
I was going to
Mounds.
say for
American Mounds.
For those around the world, so you're describing a dark chocolate bounty for people in other parts of the world.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the coconut presence is actually quite big when I focus on it.
What will be funny is if we do have two different drams and I'm looking for the coconut presence in the one that I've poured.
Well, I didn't get fennel, so we'll see. Maybe it's something different. All right, so
There's a chance I didn't get fennel either. So
what did you get on the palate of yours?
it's got wonderful drying oak.
Okay.
It's got a nice little oak spice.
Okay.
There's a little bit of that ground ginger. There's not too much cinnamon. I actually want there to be more cinnamon than there is.
Oh, interesting.
To go down that rich wood, that heavy oak path.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite going there. It's a little lighter on the palate than one might expect from the nose.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So on the palate for me, there despite the sherry, which is present, there's a lightness to it. There's a green herbaceousness going on, but as the palate transitions to the finish, that's where I'm getting melted, like chocolate chips, melting chocolate chips. I'm getting toasted walnuts. I'm
Do you
getting
get any pecan?
What's that?
Do you get any pecan?
A little bit.
Even pecan pie?
Yeah. So with the pie, I was thinking less pecan pie and more like, that heavy buttery crust that you get in apple pie. That where it's extra butter and you're like, I'm going to gain a pound, but fuck it. It's that kind of.
I know our regular listeners trust us to the nth degree. I just want to say here, you and I have not discussed our SCN of the year previously. We have not hinted as to our SCN of the year previously, and there's a very good chance we have poured the exact same dram here.
There is a good chance. All right.
And there's a chance that a few bottles remain on our website.
There's a chance we may not have picked the same.
Okay, that's why I teased that. Okay.
Okay.
We haven't guessed category yet. So which category do you think mine is from?
Well, single malt for sure.
It is single malt for sure.
And seeing as 2022 did not have us bring in a retail bottling, like think about it. Our last retail bottling was the end of 2021, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's got to be a retail bottling. And if it's...
Oh, no, can't be a retail bottling.
Scratch that, reverse it. So it's got to be an online bottling.
Has to be an online bottling.
And the notes that you're mentioning do not sound like bourbon notes. So I can't say it's Black Button, of which we also have bottles on our website for. And I can't think of an ROW, rest of the world bottling that had that.
I know which one you've poured. We did not have the same one.
Yeah, I don't think we've got the same one.
This is great though. They're such kissing cousins.
They are
This is
kissing cousins in a way,
awesome.
aren't they?
Oh yeah,
If we're
then,
right,
yes,
if
yours
we're right.
is definitely not. Yeah, you're sold out on day of release.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
do we count to 3 or do we just say it? Well, let's count to it.
We know exactly what the
All
other
right, so
person's
you poured
drinking.
the VDC, the Virginia Distillery Company,
Exactly.
which was my runner-up.
Okay.
And
you poured
yeah.
our happy little accident, the Dalyuen.
fucking remarkable. It's such a great
First
whiskey.
fill bourbon finished in first fill sherry.
Which is that
as
coconut,
everybody's
I think,
doing.
right? So I think that's that coconut coming through on the palate from all those years in bourbon.
Oh, that's so fun. That was really excellent. Really, really well done. So, my runner-up, obviously that Dalyuen. Yeah, easy.
I want you to make
Easy.
mistakes all the time. Actually,
Please put that in a t-shirt,
yeah,
please.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you do make mistakes all the time. So, anyway, let's carry on.
My runner-up, and I thought long and hard about number 1 and number 2 and number 2 and number 1. My runner-up, which may not have been a 2022 bottling.
See? Oh, you would chide me. You'd chastise me, Jason, if I brought a
Happily.
2021.
I would happily chastise you. Before I say it, when I checked the VDC label here, it says bottled January of 2022.
Is that true? Was it actually bottled January 2022?
That's what it says.
Okay.
That's what it says. So we would have been moving the cask at the end of 2021. We would have selected it in 2021, but then released it in 2022.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So my runner-up, I believe, was bottled October of 2021 and may have been released at the very end of that year or the very beginning of 22. And it's our Catoctin Creek rye finished in Kilchoman XPX. I go back to that bottle all the time. It's just all the time.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love pouring that bottling, especially for bourbon and rye drinkers, because they expect one thing and they get another, and after a few sips, it becomes an eye opener. Like, oh, okay, I didn't think those flavors could work. They do. Yeah, I really enjoy pouring that one.
Well, and Jess had told us, and we didn't bring it up while she was here in the chalet a moment ago, but she and Chris Hallstrom, Swede-Scott, had put that Catoctin Creek into the private dram cabinet
at
the Bonaccord in
Yeah,
Glasgow.
Yeah.
And they have poured from that bottle continuously and have opened more and more eyes. And we've got so many ABVs that a lot of them are blurring in my head, but the CCDC ABV is 64 something.
61.4, I think. think it's 61.4.
As low as 61?
Yeah, hold on. I
Makes sense.
think I brought that in a bag as well.
Yeah, have a look. See if that's in the chalet kitchen as well.
No, I had it here in my boot. It's actually 64.2. 64,
64 something.
Yeah,
So there you go. So scratch that one from the Jason Mistakes column. That was a correct Jason.
I see what we're doing here.
So 64 something. People in the UK are not crossing the street for 60%ers and above.
No, they're not.
Right. We've talked about this a lot with Jess, where those high 50s folk are starting to say, that's going to be a bit hot, that's going to be a bit much. To put in a 64 something with that CCDC, killed in America. Absolutely killed, crushed, rocked it in America. Jess and Swiska have had huge success pouring that for people who come through the Bon Accord. So I think that's a very worthy honourable mention bottling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well done. And right, and that's one of those opportunities where we got to share the experience with Single Cask Nation members, with One Nation Under Whiskey listeners, and people followed that journey, right? It's whenever I talk about Kilchoman, I talk about discovering them in 2007 and following that journey, and there's fun in that. Hopefully people found the fun in following this little journey as well.
For sure, and you know, the time of year where we're sitting, the new make spirit, the Catoctin Creek new make rye spirit that went into that XPX, Kilchoman, CCDC cask just turned 1 year old a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, time doesn't stop. Like, it just keeps going.
And it gets faster and faster. With our CCDC in the books, with our top SCN of the year in the books, I'm really curious. The thing that I especially love about Philippe's question is I desperately want to hear the answers, and I really would appreciate Philippe writing in and giving us his six, because he's listened to Jess. I would like you and I to go over our first three. Let's tease this a little,
okay,
and then let's have a look out the windows and see if there's anybody else we could welcome into this chalet. Once Philippe gets to the end of this episode and he hears all of our top sixes, I want to know what his are, and we want to cover that in the beginning of 2023.
Perfect.
Because he has really inspired us with this question. So with that said, Joshua, would you mind if I led the way here? Because
I would love it.
I offered you the first three SCN, and you picked two of my three. So let me give you my first three here, and I don't think we're going to have too much overlap.
I don't think that we will. We'll you know what? Let's see. Go ahead.
Okay. This order, I know when Jess was here, we didn't ask her the order in which we would drink her six, but I think hers built.
Yes, just really quick, in case people are like me, sometimes you sort of lose track of where you are, what you're doing.
That, Joshua, is so perfectly put. That is such a worthy description of yourself. Oh, know thyself.
Fuck off.
That's a terrible... Is that a remnant from those 22 months of COVID you lived
through? I think
through?
it is. So the 6 bottles that each of us have, and we're going to each tease our first 3. The 6-bottle list that we have is a list of bottlings we put together that share our story within our whiskey journey, or of some sort of significance, so that when our great-great-great-grandkids find this case of whiskey, maybe they'll learn a bit about their great-great-grandfather. So, cool.
Yeah. It's interesting in listening earlier when you were reading the email, the idea of the younger folk knowing nothing about whiskey almost sounds like the 80s and early 90s in Scotland, right? Whiskey just kind of fell off the radar. And it's amazing where we've been with it to begin the 21st century. You can't imagine it not being on a radar.
Oh.
And yet, it happens. There's no doubt about it.
It does.
All right, whiskey number one. You could probably name my whiskey number one. I think listeners could probably name my number one as well. To show that I am not an inveterate snob, I have kicked off with something that is incredibly accessible, incredibly affordable, incredibly delicious, low ABV, but it's got the word Glasgow in the name. And the Compass Box Great King Street Glasgow blend is my number one of 6 for the whiskey time capsule.
It totally checks out. It tracks with all you have been saying, I think, since that bottling was released. And you remain a dedicated devotee to that whiskey. Yep.
Do you know, not only has John Glazer not sent me a single penny for all of this free advertising, he hasn't even sent me a free bottle for all of this free advertising.
Wow. Well,
I have gone to bat for that man.
You have? You have 100%. This is a failing, Jason.
Dear John, please fix it for me to get a free $35 bottle of Great King Street Glasgow blend. Take the boy out of Scotland, Joshua. You can't take Scotland out of the boy.
If you relax, Scotland could come out the boy.
Just don't pull the Glasgow blend out the boy. Gosh, don't even put it in the boy. So, with that said, Josh has excused himself to go get more fondue. Careful with the innuendo. So, number 2 for me. I'm going to riff a little because there's a Lafroig 10 that was a 40 or a 43%er that I tasted at Aberdeen University Whisky Society with Petty P. Rynan, who I've mentioned before on the podcast. Without Petty, there's no whiskey journey for Jason.
Isn't that amazing? Leave it to a Finn, Jason.
Then, right? You want anything done in this world, ask a Finn. But I'm not picking Lafroig 10 because from my University of Aberdeen Whisky Society experience, when I moved to the Palouse, the inland northwest in eastern Washington State in the United States, and I started a society there, my society fell in love with Lafroig cask strength. And this is what has come to be known as the Red Stripe years of Lafroig 10 cask strength. They were all 57.3%. It was a standard ABV for the Red Stripe release.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that is number 2 for me.
Huh. I wonder why
it was only... Yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but 57.1 is 100 imperial proof, right? So that ABV makes sense. 57.3 puts it over. Like, is that 101 imperial proof? Like, it's such an interesting ABV.
Yeah, it's just where we thought. It's just where we thought it sat best. So here we go. So I've got into my bag, and I have pulled out a Red Stripe Lafroig cask strength.
Oh wow!
And I will tell you that I got the ABV wrong. So you can put this into the Jason being wrong column.
Look at that! So quickly, copycat. You just wanted to be wrong like I was wrong.
I tell you, you make it look so easy.
I think I make you feel like a natural woman.
Once, twice, 3 times a natural woman. This is 55.7%.
Okay, and that was the standard ABV?
Red Stripe. Yeah.
Okay.
It was only once they went to the batching of the cask strength that they started saying, okay, it'll be a batch strength coming out. So there you go. So I have got the Glasgow blend. I've got the Lafroig 10 cask strength Red Stripe. And then for number 3, this really fits with what we answered earlier, which is I don't think I can tell my personal whiskey story without including a little bit of the SCN whiskey story. And the SCN Kilchoman 4-year-old
Wow.
is my third.
Wow. There you go, right? That's... It's funny, or reading, I should say, a recent Instagram post from Travis Williams. Every year, or the past few years, he's been doing the 25 days of Kilchoman, right? The lead up to Christmas. And he highlighted a single cask bottling that was a sister cask to the one we bottled, and talked about the elusiveness of our bottling and how special he thinks it is. And it goes to show it really is a one of a kind. It literally is a one of a kind bottling.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you and I talked about this just the other day when we were hanging out. We talked about being there. We talked about being with John McClelland in the warehouse. We talked about Anthony Wills giving us that should work out, and me saying that sounds like a no. And then a few weeks later, you confirming over email and him saying, I said we would do it. Yeah. Everything was hunky-dory there. And then we made it happen. I just moved out of my office, and when I moved my couch, I found a whole collection of old samples. And
did you find the original samples?
I found a 200ml sample of the original bottling that has been full in the 200ml sample bottle.
You pulled off the 200 ml just to see what it was like as a fresh bottling.
Exactly. And so as you and I were discussing the other day when we were just chit-chatting, my fill level on my Kilchoman 4 bottle is actually quite low. Yeah. And it doesn't quite taste as it used to. Yep. But I'm thinking the next time you, me and Jess and Elijah are all together in the same place, we might share that original 200 mils of Kilchoman 4-year-old.
Hashtag blessings.
I can see your goosebumps from across this room.
I'm excited. I'm excited, Jess. I'm excited. Listen.
Talking of excited, I just poured some 10 Red Stripe original cask strength.
Did you?
And it is just killer. Absolutely. If you pull it out to look at the ABV, you might as well pour some.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to pour some too.
Well, here. Let me get my bottle then. Since we're sharing.
Thank you.
Hold your glass over here.
Oh, hold on one second. I can't believe you put it back in the canister.
Heck yeah, I did. Oh, that was a damp squib. Squirt.
All right.
With my 3 in the books, and you and I enjoying this 10-year-old Lafroig Red Stripe.
It's remarkable.
I don't think any of those 3 I just named are any of your 6. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we are not even close.
All right. So let's hear your 3, and then let's see if anybody darkens our door.
And I do believe that these, well, the first 2 at least, I think are in order of importance on my whiskey journey. And the first one is Lagavulin 16-year-old. It's just, and it's just a remarkable bottling. It's the one that introduced me to whiskey. I've told the story 1,000 times, right? When I was offered whiskey at my synagogue, and the person offering it had a few bottlings, and I asked, what should I try? And he said, do you like sweet, spicy, smoky? And when he said smoky, I didn't realize a smokiness could live in a drink. And I tasted that whiskey, and prior to that night, I had avoided whiskey. I wouldn't say I avoided drinking in the couple of years leading up to it, but I avoided drinking for a good part of my life because I didn't like the idea of getting drunk. I was a straight edge kid. I was just like, I don't want anything to cloud my mind, kind of thing. Look at me now. And anyway,
Look at me now, Mama.
Getting to taste that Lagavulin 16, my fear was this is going to take me from point A to point B, soberness to drunkenness, which is something I avoided for a good long while. And instead, it took me from point A to a cherished memory of camping with my dad, right? Like, that showed me the power of whiskey, and that bottling is the reason I got into whiskey. Just like with you, no petty, no whiskey journey for you, no Lagavulin 16, no whiskey journey for me.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that was, by the way, that was Bruce Alpert.
Yes.
You know his wife, Terry.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Yep. So that's whiskey number 1.
A man of the people with your $100 16-year-old. Carry on.
The last, Jason, go easy. Listen, the last time...
I wish our listeners could have seen that face. That was so perfect. That was a why I oughta kind of face.
Because the last time I bought Lagavulin 16...
It wasn't 100. It wasn't 105.
It was $49 a bottle. And I bought a 6-pack. And I just said, this is going to last me. Wow. And that was it. So, yes, $300 is a lot to be spending on whiskey. But on 6 bottles of Lagavulin 16, that was a bargain.
A, what year was that? And B, how many do you have left?
A, that was probably 2013.
Okay, good.
Maybe 14. It was after Sandy, right? It was after Hurricane Sandy.
Yep.
So I want let's put it at 2014 just to be safe. And what was the other question? Oh, how many do I have remaining? I have 3 bottles remaining.
Interesting.
Yep. Because it's a house pour, right? So if you come to my house, you saw the decanter that Heide got me. That's what's in my decanter. There's always Lagavulin 16 in that decanter.
Nice one.
So that's just my house pour. If you don't like it, I don't know why the fuck you're in my house. I mean, there's Lagavulin 16.
And there's nothing else to drink, so it's 16 or GTFO.
Yeah, GTFO. So that's whiskey number 1. Whiskey number 2, I think you're going to like this. Maybe you like this. This was an important one to me. This was a whiskey that became my white whale after reading a review of it on Dr. Whiskey, Sammy Simmons' old blog. And what I liked about the whiskey... Oh, geez. Oh, wow. I hope I'm not conflating this review with another review. But, shit. Maybe I am. But,
it's
so
nice
I'm
to
not
see
bring
the
up that
crippling
part.
self-doubt up close.
I don't want to give you a chance to prove that I'm wrong a second time. The notes that Sam came up with just made me fall in love. And, one of the things that led me to Sammy's blog was the tasting notes were clear, concise, to the point, with a little bit of fun in there. There's always just a little bit of fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I found early on that my palate really jibed with his palate. So anyway, I found a bottle. I purchased the bottle. And then I had both you and him over my house to open and enjoy said bottle. Mm-hmm. And that is the Glenmorangie Margot Cask Finish. That was huge, right? I mean, this may make Sam Simmons blush a little bit, but he was my whiskey hero. He continues to be a whiskey hero of mine.
For sure,
Like he just is. And you and I were, growing this really important and deep relationship that, like, life isn't life without Jason. And so it's a very important bottling to me.
I don't think the listeners can see me getting verklempt, but I will let you know I'm getting verklempt. Please continue.
And then my third one, and this is where we get out of order, okay? My third one, I got my very first taste of this from Andrew Sousa. It's a Connecticut guy,
Indeed.
Bourbon guy.
Good lad.
Yeah, wonderful lad. And he had me and a few other of our locals up to his house. And I was there on my birthday. And for my birthday, he brought the bottle up, and he had me do a bottle pour. Like, I took a swig from the bottle. I still have the video of it. But it was the Wild Turkey Cheesy Gold Foil.
So good.
It's so good. It really is. It's a magical whiskey, and you know, I think our listeners are very clear where our love lies, and you know, I think it's first and foremost single malt Scotch whiskey, followed by single malt whiskey, and that's typically what we talk about. But this was the bottling. Like, I love bourbon. I love bourbon, but this one showed me how complex bourbon can be, and I think it shares the same level of complexity and just awe-inspiring quality that some of the best, you know, Lagavulins and Lafroigs have done. It's just remarkable liquid.
Yeah, agreed.
And I wish
agreed.
I'd more of it.
I've
Yeah.
enjoyed it in a couple of different locations with a few different people, and it's just a great standalone whiskey. It doesn't need to be attached to the mythology of
Thank
the
you. Yeah, there
cheesy
you go.
gold foil. It's just a damn good whiskey that, as you rightly say, shows you the power of bourbon, and came out at a time when, like we're just talking about, the 80s and early 90s for Scotch.
Yeah, no one gave a shit.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So that's your
there you go.
three.
So
That's your. So reiterate your three.
So I'm Lagavulin 16.
Yep.
Glenmorangie Margot Cask Finish.
Indeed.
And Wild Turkey Cheesy Gold Foil.
There you go. And mine, number 1, Glasgow Blend. Number 2, jeez Louise, I'm the one with the incomplete Joshua list today. The Lafroig 10 original cask strength, the red stripe. That's the green canister with the red stripe saying original cask strength.
Does it come with just like a bottle of Red Stripe beer?
It doesn't, but my watch is now talking to me. And number 3, SCN Kilchoman 4-year-old. We're off to a good start with this. I'm excited to hear what comes later. That sounds like it's somebody else at the door of our snowy podcast chalet, Joshua.
I feel like...
Do you want me to answer the door, or you want to get this?
You know, why don't you get it this time, Jason? Because I'm just...
All right.
I can't do it.
It's Elijah!
Hey.
Hello, Elijah! Come in out of the snow.
I haven't seen you for 40 days.
Yes, 40 days, and I'm here. I made
And 40
it.
nights, to
40
be
nights.
fair.
Yes. Where's my seat at the table?
Hey! Well played, sir. Well
You
played.
got passed over. It's not gonna happen.
Hey,
Next year in Snohomish.
Yes.
You don't live in Snohomish.
You don't live in Snohomish? I thought you lived in
I live in
Snohomish.
Snohomish.
Yeah.
Hey!
That's why it's snowing. You said it was snowing earlier. I said, of course it's snowing.
Snohomish.
You live in Snohomish.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, Elijah, you have come here at the perfect time. We are rounding out our year. We are covering our favourites, our favourite SCN bottle of the year, our favourite non-SCN bottle of the year, and we also have a little question to ask you that we will return to. But where would you like to start? Would you like to talk SCN or non-SCN first?
Let's go with SCN first.
Okay.
I am curious.
So our friend Jess came by earlier, and she had winners, she had high mentions, she had side mentions that didn't fit into a hierarchy at all. Are you pretty clear in your number one selection for the year?
You're saying,
or do you want to qualify this?
So Jess took more of the Joshua approach to this?
Go easy.
She had multiple incomplete lists. Multiple.
You're going to have to leave and come back in another 40 days if you keep that attitude up.
I've kept it clean. One decision. It was a difficult decision, but
okay.
I just went with my gut, wrote it down, and made no edits.
Okay. So you have no need for an honourable mention?
I could give an honourable mention.
Okay.
I could.
I'm curious how much time to keep you next to the fire here is just what I'm working. So what? Start with the high-hanging fruit, Elijah.
The high-hanging fruit.
Announce to us what and why.
There you go. That's the key. It's good to know what, but it's more important to know why.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the high-hanging fruit, the pinnacle of SCN, is the McMira 13-year-old for me. Was the best SCN this year. Why?
Yeah, that's taking me by surprise. I mean, I think it's a great whiskey. It's just taking me by surprise, Elijah.
So there's a lot going on in it, and all things that are right around my wheelhouse as far as a whiskey goes. It's got a fruitiness to it. It's got a baking spice characteristics to it that I thoroughly enjoy. I think when I was listening to Jess's interview, and they were mentioning the yeast that is used for cinnamon rolls.
Yeah,
our interview with Richard McKean.
Yes. I haven't been able to get that out of my mind, and maybe it's one of those things that is messes with my head. But when I had it the first time was at Pitch in Arizona for a tasting.
Yeah.
And opened it there. I had to talk about the whiskey to this select crowd and taste it along with him. And I just had one of those moments. I was kind of blown away by it. Wow. And
Had you had any whiskey from McMira prior to the SCN bottling, or was that your first foray into the spirit?
Yes, I have. Jess has sent me in Advent little calendars and many samples of McMira. Nothing that's been mind-blowing or best whiskey of the year, but I don't know, something about this one was just hit all the things that I like about whiskey, and it was something different.
Great to hear.
Yeah. So
do you feel like the new charred oak of it played a role in the flavor profile? Perhaps
100%.
The spice, that cinnamon you're talking about.
Yeah. I think McMira, that fruity, the really high fruity notes, combating with the new charred oak, created a great balance for me. And something that I enjoyed. There was a lot of great whiskeys that SCN made this year, or produced, or bottled.
Well, you have definitely gone to the opposite end of the spectrum from Jess. So Jess named an SCN whiskey that only exists in cask and in experimental samples that she's been taking.
That's cheating. I tried some great stuff in cask too.
I mean, it'll eventually
Elijah
become a bottling, but yeah, that's a good point.
Well, she's already gone back out into the snow.
That's true.
We're unable to call her back in for follow-up questions. All right, so I'm very interested then. Oh, and that's what I was saying. The opposite end of the spectrum is She's gone with the one that only exists in cask that may be released at some point in the future into the rest of the world markets. You've gone with something that's still currently available on the website in the United States, and we have not been able to say that for a good number of years.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Anybody interested in that, please do check out the website.
Can you put a little banner on the website saying Elijah's Whiskey of the Year?
Oh,
you know
what? You could do that.
Elijah's
SCN Whiskey of the Year.
Yeah.
A little rubber stamp.
Yeah, but put my face, like kind of crop my face and put it kind of at the bottom of the image.
You
like
send
a
me
stamp.
the picture of the face that you want on there, and we will make that happen. I'm not going to lie to you.
People will be like, wow, Jack Black liked that whiskey. I am totally on board.
Because he's Nacho Libre?
Yes.
We've lost him. He's texting.
No.
So
I was pulling up my non-SCN because I didn't want to butcher the name of it. Oh, wait.
Before you go on to that, yeah, give me an honorable mention. I'm curious what else worked with your palate.
You chided Jess for having honorable mentions, and here
let's be honest, Jess had 15 honorable mentions, some of which fit the category and some of which didn't. She might be a world judge. She was all over the place.
Okay,
I'm in so much trouble for all of these words.
Was any of her honorable mentions at least actual whiskeys that were bottled?
Yes.
Okay, good. At least she did something right.
Wow,
little brother punching up. He's also in trouble. So thanks for taking some heat off me, Elijah. Yeah. I appreciate it.
I'll hear it later.
Only one
is
only one.
The Oishi 6-year that was finished in the Muscatel.
I had
so the sherry and then Muscatel finish.
I had a feeling you were going to go with the Oishi. I know you love Oishi.
I don't think I've ever had a whiskey of the year, even pre-SCN, that has ever been 40% or around 40%. That's been my favorite, or in the favorite whiskeys of the year. Because I think that was 40.6, 7.
Yeah,
it is 40 point something. Huge flashing asterisk right now in the podcast. That is a natural cask strength of 40 point something. Just for those falling out their chairs at home.
I tell you though, you're in good company. That's Ari Cohen's bottling of the year.
Oh,
Nation member and podcast listener. Yeah, that's his whiskey of the year. He wrote that in, which is nice. Oops. So
that was me silently pulling out the Oishi to check the strength.
And this is me silently getting the Oishi to pour some.
Anything.
Yeah,
40.5 is the Oishi 6 strength, natural cask strength.
Here we go. I'm going to pour some in your honor, Elijah.
Yeah, I
all right.
Can I get my bottle too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, if we're all pouring, it'd be rude not to.
Going. It's such a good whiskey.
I had poured a Sotol just as we were kind of having a little chitty chat with him, but I didn't draw any attention to it.
So that was weird, because I saw you drinking that, and it was a full glass, and I'm wondering, wow, he's real thirsty. You did a full glass of Sotol?
Oh, it
smells full glass.
Yeah, the big pint glass of Sotol that you had.
You thought it was New Make Spirit.
It's 81 proof.
Elijah, you have some atoning to do.
Well, cheers to 2022, Elijah.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Oishi 6-year-old in the glass. Everybody should check out the color on this.
Oh, I know. It's like the color of cherries. It's gorgeous.
Oh,
cherries?
In this light.
Oh, like a little blush on it.
Yeah, a little blush.
Anytime I hear the word cherry, I just think of dark cherry. Just every time. Straight to dark
Jason,
cherry.
There's a rainbow of cherry colors.
It's very true, Joshua. It's very true. If I had $1 for every time I've said there's a rainbow of cherry colors, I would have $1. Elijah, we forced you into an honorable mention for SCN. Unleash upon us
your non-SCN whiskey of the year, and feel free to give us a preamble, a long introduction if you need us to. I don't think we're going to be able to guess it, but give us a preamble to your selection.
Okay. Preamble.
Set the scene. Yes.
So, when I select my whiskeys of the year, it's usually in a particular environment or around certain people that make it like a really enjoyable experience. It might not be the best whiskey, but it's just in that moment, taste it, going back and revisiting it, ended up being, the best that I thought. And this comes from
I like that.
one of my favorite distilleries.
Ooh.
It's in, I say, my top 3 favorite distilleries.
Ooh.
And this particular offering surprised me because this distillery produces different styles of peat levels. And usually I'm not drawn to this particular style of whiskey because it's a little dirty, a little, not like Jason kind of dirty, but and that could be used in many ways. But it's a little rough, stinky, big around the edges.
So pause for 1
You still
second
talking about
here.
Jason?
Let's.
Rough, stinky, and big?
Yeah.
Wow, I will put my pants back on if that's the way I'm going to be received around here. I thought we were all friends in this snowy podcast chalet. Paint the picture for our listeners here. These favourite distilleries of yours, is Kilchoman a favourite distillery of yours?
Yeah.
That's top 3?
Springbank?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. A Thrusk. We know you're in a Thrusk pair.
Yeah.
Are those 3 the top 3? Or those 3 in the top 5?
Those are in the top 5. 2 of them are in the top 3.
Oh, so a Thrusk is not part of the top 3.
It was the part of the top 5 though.
There you
All
go.
my top 3 involve peat.
Okay, so we've got Kilchoman, Springbank, a Thrusk. Joshua, do you want to throw a guess in there?
Yeah, I kind of...
Because I just named 3 of his top 5 right off the top of my head. But let's see what you've got.
So your top 3 are all peated. Are your top 4 peated?
No.
Okay. So I would guess that, because you're a man of taste, I would guess that number 3 is Lagavulin.
No.
It's not like... So you're not a man of taste. Okay. That's interesting.
I love Lagavulin. I love it.
Apparently not that much.
Yeah.
All right, put us out of our misery. What are the 2 we're missing?
So, Kalila is one of them.
Oh.
I think Kalila is. I don't want to put anything on wax. I'll just say I think it's one of the most consistent of any Isla whiskey.
That is true. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
And you can
None at
also
all.
get a lot of variation. Like you can get an elegant style of Kalila. You can get like a big meaty style of Kalila. But it always has that spirit character that's so distinct and so
This is
consistent.
why I love conversations like this. I could easily name 3 of your 5. You could have given me another 30 guesses. I don't think I would have said
I
Kalila.
wouldn't have said Kalila.
I have a in my Isla section shelf of my whiskey collection. It's Kilchoman and Kalila are the 2 most that I have.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And then what's the other one?
the other one would have to be probably Kleinlich. I like the coastal style, waxy sea salt. And kind of similar ones that I like are like Old Pulteney.
Okay. Yeah, you got a wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is good. I feel like we've fleshed out a little bit more of Elijah here. This is good. So okay, let's hear this whiskey of the year from you.
Which is on the dirtier
Non-SC,
side of the distillery that produces 3 styles of spirit, which Well, I'll let you use words.
So it is a long row.
Okay.
And it's the 15-year-old Open Day 2022 that came in a very small bottle.
Yes.
I have
Yes,
a bottle
yes,
of that. I
yes.
haven't opened it yet.
Which is, I think, a little controversial. The size of the bottle, 20.
It's not the
20
size that matters, Elijah.
Yeah, okay. But 20 CLs is something like if you have the right people, or if you're just having that, the right kind of night. You might be able to finish that in a sitting, maybe.
Yeah.
Hashtag drink responsibly.
Yep.
But I don't know. So that was one of those whiskeys. Opened with a friend, and it was just magical. And all things, I approached it also tasting side by side the Hazelburn Open Day, and was more looking towards that, forward to that, because that's generally what I lean towards as far as that might be like my all-time favorite type of whiskey, kind of a mix of everything in there, but especially those like coastal, like lingering peat notes sometimes that you get in Hazelburn. But two things that I don't really like approaching that whiskey was long row, being heavily peated, like just not my style as far as Springbank goes. And then it's matured in, I believe, like 3 or 4 Oloroso sherry butts. And not my first, I'm more ex-bourbon, lightly or just a medium style peat. And it just surprised me. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was,
I like that.
it was great. Even the neck pour was great.
What? Oh, wow. Well, you know what? It's a 20 CL bottle. Like, it knows
It's all thing is a neck pour.
It's all a neck. The whole thing is a neck pour.
So, I thought that was my favorite of the year. And I'll give thanks to Jess for sending me that bottle. So,
Lovely. Oh, very lovely.
Yeah.
Do you? It's fine if you don't. Is there an honourable mention in the non-SCN category? A close running second?
does it have to be a whiskey?
Yes, sir. This is where Joshua makes me hold his feet to the fire. I'm holding your feet to the fire here. No, listen. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
If you've got a runner-up that really caught your attention, it doesn't have to be a whiskey. I've let Joshua play
Or
fast
a
and loose in the
rummer-up.
past.
Do you have a rummer-up?
Ooh.
Wait, I thought it had to be a whiskey.
No, I've opened the
Oh,
rules.
okay, yeah.
Since I'm forcing you into a runner-up, I'm curious what the second most fascinating thing was that you had this year that was not SCN related.
Ooh. Oh, actually, it's going to be a whiskey. I already know what it is.
All right.
I don't know if it's out in the U.S., though, right now.
It doesn't matter.
That's all right. It's a global podcast.
It was the Hakata 16-year-old,
Yeah.
and it literally blew my mind away.
Literally.
Literally, my mind just blew out right there. It's splattered on the wall right here. It's 100% barley, but using koji in the fermentation. And I always thought with these like rice whiskeys, Oishi, Fukano, that it was the rice that was the flavor I was attracted to. It's the koji.
Oh, interesting.
It's got this weird umami flavor, and something that's because I've had these koji whiskeys that are barley or rice, a combination, but nothing ever 100% malted barley. So I think it's the koji that really carries that umami like flavor. Hakata 16, if you see it, coming to the US soon, or maybe
That's
it
a
is.
great-
I don't know.
Great little nod there, Elijah.
It's all sherry, too. That's another thing. That I know that's all
two sherry
sherry.
whiskeys. Yeah, 2 sherry whiskeys.
Huh.
All the whiskeys that I really liked this year were in dark cask. Even the Macmillan, it's relatively like there's a lot of cask influence there. It's new charto, but it's not overwhelming. Nothing was all of those. The cask was very prevalent in the color, but I'm not a color guy. But it was
None of us
very.
are.
They were all balanced. all very well balanced.
Let me just say this really quickly, because Hakata is a brand that Impex is bringing in. I did not coach you on saying that. You just came out with it. Like we're not even talking Hakata.
I'll send you my Venmo after this. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
We're not even the same snowy podcast chalet together right now. Like this is all an illusion. It's an illusion all the way down.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, though, Elijah. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Elijah. We asked this of Jess, and we've covered it, and we are covering it in this podcast. Philippe Panavong asked a fantastic question, which is,
I like that guy.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, he's a terrific human being.
Yep.
What 6 whiskies would you lay down for future generations? And you of course have 2 young children here, and so you could be laying these down for your own children to know more about their venerable old man.
Yeah. Oh.
What are the 6 whiskies that you would put into that whiskey time capsule?
Okay. I have it written down, and I want everyone to know that I wrote this down in one go and just went straight from my heart. I didn't have to go back and forth. I knew what it would be. And also, I don't want anyone to criticize my selection and thinking, oh, that's not that great of a whiskey. I'm not saying this is the greatest whiskey I've had ever in my life, but this is just all these whiskeys. Every time I see them, every time I remember tasting them, they have a special meaning in my whiskey journey.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. You have set the table perfectly.
Okay, let me see.
Russell.
Okay. So, this is in no particular order, but I guess these top 3 mean something extra special to me. Okay. I'll read from the start. It's Kilchoman McAuliffe Cast Strength 2017 West Coast Tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Jess kicked off with Kilchoman Sinig.
Oh, okay. Like early iterations of Kilchoman Sinig, or just Kilchoman Sinig in general, or just
Sinig in general. A good sipper for having with friends, pouring, drinking, imbibing, chatting around. Yep.
I like hearing these two, because for me, the 2016 was where it was at for the cast strength versions. So it's nice to know where your palate is and where some of the differences are. I kind of judging. It's just an interesting observation.
I've actually never gotten to taste the 2016. I had the 2017, the 2019, the 2020 with the little sheep with the Santa hats on.
I'll see you in February. I just got a new bottle, so there you go.
What?
I had a friend that's been holding on to a bottle for 6 years for me.
Nice.
Wow, commitment.
Nice.
Wow.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, that is. Cheers to that. Okay, yeah, so Kilchoman McAuliffe, I'll give just a quick reason why. Or no? Okay.
No, please.
Kilchoman McAuliffe Cast Strength 2017 West Coast Tour, because this is the whiskey that got me into the whiskey industry. So I had a friend who had brought this home, and I was at the time working at a kombucha company called Cha Cha Kombucha in Orange County, and was making kombucha. And we always approached making kombucha with like a whiskey mindset, so it had to have a good. Well, kombucha noses always don't smell that great, but try to have the best smelling kombucha. Texture, palate, right? Great palate and a great finish. And he brought this, and it was actually at the mixing glass. He picked it up at the mixing glass in 2017. Nice. And I think it was James and Anthony Wills that were on tour at the time. I think in 2017.
I think that you're correct there.
Yeah, I think it might have been both of them, or maybe one of them. And Chris Udi was with them. And when I went to go try to find a bottle, it was all sold out at Mixing Glass. And then on Kilholman's website, or it might have been Impex's website, they had a map, a tour of where they were going, and they were going up to Seattle. Actually, their last stop was at the Barrel Thief. This is it's all connecting. So it was at the Barrel Thief in Fremont, and at the time I didn't know Barrel Thief was I didn't know if it was a store or a restaurant, anything like that. I called my dad. And I said, here's a picture of this bottle. And I wrote him long, reason why I needed this bottle. Can you please go pick it up? And he's about 30, 45 minutes away from Fremont. So he went out of his way to go pick up the bottle. Sure enough, he couldn't buy the bottle at the time. And then he showed Chris Udi my text message. And Chris asked my dad, who is this kid? He was just, because I had a long explanation to my dad why I wanted it. And anyways, my dad gave me his card. I messaged Chris. Chris didn't respond for months.
Checks out.
And then I went to Whiskey Live. I actually still have the glass right here, which I'm going to join a whiskey out of. Whiskey Live, which I don't know if that's still around or if it changed its name or something like that. But Whiskey Live in LA, and sure enough, because I had stalked Chris on LinkedIn, I saw Chris's at the booth with Kilholman, and I was like, hey, I emailed you. Can I please try to find this bottle? And I had a little liquid courage in me, and I went up and I also asked him, I'm like, are you hiring? I would like to get into the whiskey industry. On paper, it doesn't look like I know anything, but I think if you take a chance, I think it would be a good thing. Then a few months later, he emailed me back. Months. This is months. This is all months. I'm not afraid to share this.
Checks out. Yeah. All this checks out. Yes.
Months later, he responds and has me, hey, can you come by the warehouse? I have your bottle. And then, sure enough, when I go and get my bottle and everything, I'm sitting down doing an interview. No preparation, nothing. I'm doing an interview. And then after that interview, he wants me to come back for a second interview. And the rest is history. Wow. But yeah, that's Kilholman getting me into, all because I was just trying to get the bottle. So
amazing. That is such a cool story.
Yeah. That has kicked off the six-pack beautifully.
Yeah. So,
does each bottle have a 20-minute description to it?
No. I'm just going to crank it through all of them. But that was I feel like possibly the most important one for me. Yeah. No, that's
excellent.
Good.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's just really quickly back to what I was saying before. Initially, I thought your love of the 2017 was a flavor difference from the 17 to the 16, but it's more that was your shoe in the door. That was your foot in the door for the whiskey industry. That's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2, Aaron 14 year.
Oh yes.
And they've had kind of a couple. I don't know if they're still doing the 14 year anymore. They might have discontinued it for a little bit, but it was the old style bottle, they had. I don't remember. They've had 2 different iterations of it, but the 14 year
with the big 14 on it when they switched over to 10. 14 with the big numbers?
It wasn't. It was a small number. So that was the purple label. It had a soft violet kind of purple label.
Yeah.
It was the one before that would have the orange cap on it, or the cork, the top. Yeah, that I was at Aaron and I had that. I was the only one on the tour. Still remember my tour guide's name, Stuart, and it took me through midweek tour, and I watched a little video drinking the 14 year. I was like, what is this? This is great. They gave us a little whiskey on the general tour. I was by myself.
Yeah.
And always have loved that whiskey. Always have loved that whiskey. I wish I had more bottles. I've gone through many.
There you go.
No, number 3 is Lagavulin 16 year. That's the whiskey that got me into whiskey.
Boom. You and me both, brother.
Yeah, that was my hook. I can't say much more about it, but it's a classic. I haven't had it in such a long time. I need to revisit it, but Yeah, that was.
It has certainly changed along the way. It's those bigger, salty, smoky peat bombs from 10 years ago, and certainly 20 years ago are certainly different now.
Yeah,
they're softer.
Yeah, softened up.
They're more approachable.
Okay.
Less smoky, but then
Yeah, I think the last time I had it was maybe 2017 or 18 that I like.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah, 2017, right before I got married. The day before I got married is the last time I had it. So a special bottle. Number 4 is, I'm going to hold it up, Oishi Madeira, 7-year-old that was selected by Southern California Whiskey Club.
Yeah.
It's just a special bottle. I put so much work into it with that club, and I think it tastes fantastic. It's still, to this day, my all-time favorite Oishi.
It's a funky monkey, right? It's like a bit of a weird one. In a good way.
I don't know. I personally don't think that is. There was another Madeira that was maybe like a few years before that maybe you had something on the East Coast that was
maybe
that was a little more on the funky side. But the Southern California Whiskey Club was like dessert in a glass. Like, I remember early pandemic, I was with Jason on one of the, we were just texting on one of the Instagrams or the lives, YouTube lives or something. The Impex thing.
It was an Impex live. Yep.
And Jason and I were messaging during it, and I think I finished one of the 3 or 4 bottles I had. I finished like half the bottle in that sitting. And I didn't know, but I just told Jason. And he told me to drink responsibly.
I think I said hashtag please drink responsibly, Elijah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's that kind of like, open the screw cap on a Friday, recycle on a Monday.
And it is screw
maybe
caps.
really.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so that's number 4.
Okay, number 5. This is going to be weird, and I don't want to trigger anyone by this, especially you, Joshua.
Let me gird my loins.
Okay.
It's a American bourbon. Elijah Craig, 12-year-old.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
back when I had
that
an
was
age
also
statement?
yes, it had a 12 on the front, or some of them had it just on the back. But this was around 2014 when I was getting into whiskey, and there's something about every time I smell it. I was in my college dorm room when I had this bottle, and I was really getting into whiskey and into Ralphie.
Oh, yeah.
And he had like an old Elijah Craig 12-year-old review, and I still can hear his voice when I drink this Elijah Craig. I don't think they've been the same since they've really, I think now they're around like 7, 8 years old. The small batch is what it's called, but yeah, something about Elijah Craig 12, especially on the nose, that I just really dug. And it was, as a college student, it was $25. And it was like, this is so great. 12 years old, 47%, $25. This is like hitting all the Ralphie marks.
So,
because he had all
why
this.
would that set me off? Or is it just the term American bourbon? Because I love Elijah Craig.
Well, I was just
First
bourbon
Jubilee
in
bottling
general, maybe.
was a 15-year-old single cask of Elijah Craig.
Oh, I guess, yeah. I guess you're, yeah.
OG, baby.
I don't. Yeah,
It's almost like Joshua likes American bourbon and just gives it a hard time because it's fun to give it a hard time.
Yeah.
I like giving things a hard time every now and again. It's fun.
Corners of tables.
Yeah. So that's I don't know, special whiskey for me. The last one, number 6. This one might come as a surprise. It is a single cask nation whiskey.
Whoa.
And it's probably one that you would not guess. But this is probably my most amount of bottles I've ever bought of one single cask nation whiskey.
I think I know what it is.
you might think you know what it is, but it's actually something different because of the memories and associations I have with it. That one came in a close, it was number like 7. But this one is a retail release, not an online release.
Okay.
Oh, the Glen Roth
Glen
is
Roth is 8 year.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. Like when I said earlier about the long row, that whiskey with the right company, I just had, it was almost like one of those epiphany moments. Like, how could a whiskey taste this good? And I think I texted both of you guys, and this might have been pre-joining Single Cast Nation. This might have been, I don't even remember when it was. Might have been shortly after I met you, Jason. But I literally said that to my friend I was drinking with. I'm like, how could this be this good? That's what I thought. And it's just one of those ones, every time I go back to it, I don't want to open this bottle because I've already gone through 3 of them, and this is my last one I haven't opened.
Wow.
If I find another one, I will open it. But it's like one of those that I could put a dent in very easily. I almost sound like I have a drinking problem or something with all these bottles. But
You're like a chocoholic, but for alcohol.
But
You've got me thinking, actually. I can't think of anything in the last 10 years I've gone through 3 bottles of and have a 4th at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, my office here like, I loved that, I loved that, I loved that. Never went through 3 bottles of it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting proposition, Elijah.
Yeah, I think original bottles, official bottlings, the Lagavulin 16 is probably the most I've gone through, especially early in my whiskey journey. And then, this Glen Roth is for sure of any independent bottling of, normally I'm on 1 and done or maybe 2 bottles and that's it. But this one, I've gotten multiple bottles of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Over the course of years, because it was the part of the first retail release,
It was,
I believe.
2017.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I had a few of them.
So you said you just sat down and you wrote these 6 bottles in a
Easy.
one. Those 6 bottles are at the top of your brain, ready to go constantly.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really cool.
All stuff that has a meaningful, that's been meaningful to my whiskey journey.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think you've answered the question in the spirit that Philippe asked it.
Yeah.
We did one more question up our sleeves to get out of here, but our time together has been fleeting, Elijah, and I would much rather have had the 20-minute historical context for the Kilholman than the final question to get you out of here.
Yeah.
But I've got the reason Joshua and I love the end of year podcast is as much as we do is it just gives a chance to sit down and chat. And having Jess stop by and having you stop by, this is exactly why we do this podcast. So cheers to you. Cheers for being here with us in this moment. And now get your arse back out into the snow and see where you find yourself. Cheers, Elijah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh.
It's amazing that Elijah came up here. Like that's a boy who likes warmer weather, I think.
I love the fact that we always leave the door open for Elijah at Passover, and he shows up at Hanukkah.
At Hanukkah, right? It's like, here's the seat at the table. Nope, here you are. It's Hanukkah.
Jeez, we poured him a whiskey, and unfortunately he drank it. That's one of my things about the Passover table is I actually get to drink that bloody glass of wine.
The Manischewitz that you poured?
Oh, delicious. Delicious.
So before you came, Heide and I were singing one of our favorite Hanukkah songs. And I wonder, do you have Hanukkah songs that you like to sing this time of year?
Oh, yes.
Do you guys do Hanukkah songs at home?
Oh, yes. Like, we don't gather around the baby grand and sing, but we perhaps play them on a device.
All right. So do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, what's that? Wonderful Christmas Time is my favorite Hanukkah song.
Oh yeah, that's simply having a wonderful Hanukkah time. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
I'll be honest, I don't necessarily have a favorite, but in our house we will play the Maccabeats, who they're almost like the Jewish Weird Al. See what I did there?
That's totally it. Yeah, the Jewish Weird Al. So, yeah. Who is also Jewish, by the way. But anyway, here we go. They're the religious Weird Als. There you go.
and so they'll take common songs and put Hanukkah specific lyrics to them. And the one about flip the dreidel, or spin the dreidel. The one about spin the dreidel always gets my attention.
I just can't believe like they converted NWA's "Fuck the Police" for that.
Hell of an
It's
achievement.
just amazing.
Hell of an achievement.
Yeah, amazing.
They're masters. So you and Heide and the girls clearly have a favorite.
Well, we do. So before you knocked, we were singing what is our favorite. But I often think about that, right? I think holiday music can be fun. It can be annoying. Like I like a little bit of Christmas music every now and again, but not to be bombarded. But it does make me think. Like are there fun Hanukkah songs people like? I don't know anything about Kwanzaa, but I wonder if there are great Kwanzaa songs that people gather to sing.
Yeah, good question.
I just back to what we were saying when we opened this up is it's that spirit of it's that holiday spirit, right? It's this special feeling regardless of what you celebrate. And I like that there's music associated with these holidays regardless of what your beliefs are.
Yeah, I feel like we accidentally got lucky in Scotland, where I grew up, in a family and cousins and aunts and uncles, and we always wished each other a happy festive season, right? Warm wishes for a festive season. And it clearly meant Christmas and New Year, because that's what we had in Scotland. Sure. But to be in America and to have a multicultural family and multicultural friends, you can still say warm wishes for a festive season. And it's Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Thanksgiving and New Year and end of season and winter solstice. It's the whole shebang, right? And it's what you and I started talking about today. It's the end of the year. It's a chance to sit and dram and visit with people and chat and catch up and look forward and look backwards. It's all magnificent. It's all tremendous, and I love it. I love every bit of it. So, to see Elijah here, to get to wish him a Merry Christmas for his family, and hoping they travel safely and come back safely. Jess heading down to England after being here in our Swiss chalet. I say ours. I know it's yours and Heide's, but it feels like ours. It's really wonderful. So that in looking backwards, Joshua and Elijah just told us about his long row that came out of the festival season. See what I did there? Festival.
Oh yeah.
Came out of the festival season. I'm very curious. You and I alluded to this in our last episode of Extra Extra. That we haven't been dipping into every new release in 2022.
Correct.
And you said in that episode that you went through a large part of this year not having a favorite 2022 dram, and then something fell from the sky, not literally, that you in that moment were able to say, this is my 2022 dram.
Yep.
Give us a bit more of the context around that.
Well, I think everybody, if people are, and by the way, I'm opening up a new bottle of my favorite dram.
I can hear.
Yeah. For those of us who do think about their favorite insert whatever they give a shit about here thing.
Like record of the year, book of the year.
Record of the year. Yeah, exactly. Right. Everybody has something that's special to them. And if they're geeky about it, they may think about, what was the special, of this in this year.
Comic
and so on,
book,
right? And so,
movie.
Yeah. And for me, quite often, my whiskeys of the year may not be what everybody else would deem a whiskey of the year, though I would happily argue against them. But my approach tends to be the whiskey that caught me off guard, the whiskey
that's
that
a nice way of putting it. I like that.
Right?
Yeah,
right. If it introduced me to new flavors or proved me wrong, right? Like, we make no bones about it. Neither you nor I really have a palate for Jura or Fettercairn. But if we found a Jura or Fettercairn that we really liked, we'd say, dude, you got to check this out, right? And so it's those types of whiskeys that really make you take notice. And so for me...
For sure, yeah. Oh my God, are you going to announce a Jura this episode?
I'm not announcing a Jura.
Okay.
But right, but it is one that made me take notice, and one that just, it took me off guard, and I would argue opened up a new range of flavors that I had simply not been privy to at the time. Like, again, this whiskey of the year thing is really personal. And so people, when I say this, people might say, oh, well, I've had whiskey from them. I also like them. I don't know why you selected it. That's all fine and well. This was some of my first introduction to this distillery. And some of my first introduction to the distillery. And this bottling in particular, I finished nearly all the first bottle myself. I did a bit of sharing.
Hashtag, please drink the entire bottle responsibly.
But what did I say before, right? In 2014, I bought a 6-pack of Lagavulin 16, and I still have 3 bottles remaining. If I'm drinking a single bottle in less than a year, drinking most of it, right, it's saying something.
You say less than a year. Didn't you only come to this towards the end of this year?
No. I think you may have your timing wrong on that one. I think I reminded you toward the end of the year that I had a bottling. No, I discovered this one sometime mid-year. Let's call it May, June.
Right.
Could have been July.
All right.
So I think that it was bottled in 2022. I definitely discovered it in 2022.
Yeah. I feel like we're allowed to have that little wrinkle for this. Although, again, with mine, I also believe it's a 2022 release. I certainly became aware of it in 22.
So this is a single cask, okay? And I have since purchased, after my first bottle, I bought another 2 bottles. And hopefully there's more, because I may need yet another.
Is this one of your top 5 distilleries?
It's not part of my top 5 distilleries. Mm-hmm. Nope. 62.5% alcohol. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you the color.
Mm-hmm. Okay, quite orangey.
How would you describe that color?
Quite amber, a bright amber as I'm seeing it from across the chalet lit by this roaring fire.
Yeah, there we go. That's the sound of a roaring fire.
Sounds of something else too.
All right, I'm going to give you some tasting notes. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready, yeah. Well, yes, give me your nose.
Fresh brioche.
Okay, Dave Broom.
Raspberries and like quality whipping cream, right? Not the shit out the can. Not the imitation stuff, like quality whipping cream.
So rich, unctuous, decadent, heavy weighted.
Yeah, but there's a citrusy quality to it, right? There's a little bit of ruby red grapefruit going on. Actually, I take that back. A bit more pomelo, right? It's sweet like ruby red, so not as tart as normal grapefruit, but a bit more gentle, not as intensely sweet, so it's more pomelo. I would argue that there's, in addition to real raspberries, there's imitation raspberries going on in here, like Red Hot Dollars, those Heide candy Red Hot Dollars. And maybe some spiced gumdrops. That's the nose.
That sounds tremendous. Good grief.
All right. Am I going for the palate?
Yeah. I'm curious about category on it. I'm also curious about how it came into your life.
This came into my life. So let me paint the picture. I first tasted whiskeys from this distillery in 2021. And I visited the distillery in 2021. And getting to taste their whiskeys, right? It's one of those rabbit hole moments where you say, oh, that's nice. That's different. Let me do some investigative work. And I happen to know one of the people that was part of the selection process for this cask. And I don't know this person very well, but well enough that I know this person has good taste, or I think they have good taste. I said, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a chance on wild romance. And I received it. I opened it, and I probably in the first night went through 4 drams, just discovering the flavors, sitting with it, sometimes investigating it, sometimes just like enjoying life with it in hand. And I just kept wanting to pour more.
So it's a single malt?
It is a single malt.
Is it a Scottish single malt?
The palate on this is tremendous.
So yes.
It's not a Scottish single malt.
I'm trying to think how 2021 fits into things. I literally have no memory of 2021. And so, was I with you when you visited this distillery in 2021?
Do you know, sadly, you are not.
Okay, so it's a non-Scottish distillery that you visited in 2021. Is it a UK distillery?
Should I give you palate notes before I answer that?
No. You should answer my question.
It is not UK. It is not UK.
Where the hell did Joshua Hatton go in 2021? Lordy. Oh my God, my brain is pouring out my ear. All right, give us those palate notes for this non-UK single malt producer.
It's so bright and crisp with its maltiness that it's... Do you know...
I know exactly which single malt producer you visited in 2021 without me.
Do you know when it's like a hot summer day, you're mowing the lawn, you're taking care of yard work, whatever it is, it's hot, it's humid, it's disgusting. And the best thing in your life is a quality Pilsner.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
where you're just
bright,
like,
crisp, fresh, cuts through all the bullshit.
Imagine that bright, crisp freshness that you get from a Pilsner, but you're wrapping red fruits around it, and you've got even a bit of white chocolate in there, Jason. A bit of white chocolate going on.
So you've got me perplexed, because I think I own a single cask bottling from this distillery that you sent me, but in 21. And you're now talking perhaps about a different single cask from this distillery from around the summer of 2022.
You said it earlier where you didn't really know if this whiskey was a 2021 or a 2022. I firmly believe. Excuse me.
The children
that was
are
my
our
turn to get
future.
a little verklempt. I believe the children are our future. Show them, let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. So I firmly believe that this was 2022, and I believe this because it was in later spring this year. I had a number of my local whiskey friends, right? John Kay, Mark and Ben Homan, Jay Cole, a few others come over to the house. Yoni, I think, was there too, to taste some whiskeys. And between them all, we ended up buying another case at least because they were just floored by this whiskey. And that was this year.
Is it an American single malt?
It's an American single malt.
Is it?
Right. Let's pause there really quickly. My whiskey of the year is an American single malt. I think that's kind of cool in and of itself.
Yeah, my SCN whiskey of the year was an American single malt, right?
Yeah, right. There you go. Wow.
It's good liquid. It's really good liquid.
Yeah, remarkable.
Is yours Pacific Northwest?
That it is.
Is yours the Westward Distillery?
Westward Distillery.
So which cask are you naming as your whiskey? Because
I feel like I'm going to get chided, chastised, other words that start with a C. Hopefully I have more than 4 letters in them. Mine is the Westward Distillery Single Pinot Noir Cask for Execs Whiskey Club.
Ah, nice.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, okay. That's not the bottle that I've got sitting in my bag here.
Oh, thank God. Oh, my gosh, Jason. It is absolutely remarkable. Are you sure I didn't get you a bottle of this?
No, you didn't. You've only got me the one Westward, and I'm looking at it in my bag right now.
Huh. I wonder if I have a bottle for you, because I right, it's my whiskey of the year. It was my whiskey of the year in the spring. So and here we are now in December. So if you don't have a bottle, that means I have a bottle for you somewhere, and you will get it. Remarkable liquid.
Nice.
Visiting the distillery, spending time with Miles, getting to know how they brew their wash, how they distill, the care they take in the maturation. What did I say earlier? It was one of the things that I think is so special about what we do is that at the end of the day, take whiskey sales out of it. We're a couple guys who give a shit about whiskey. And my experience going to Westward was, here's a group of people that give a shit about whiskey.
Yeah.
And it shows in their spirit. And I was just floored by this. And it opened a door to new flavors in whiskey that I hadn't discovered before.
Well,
So there you go, whiskey of the year.
Again, as we just covered in the last extra, Westward was in the certainly top 10, perhaps the top 5, right? Westward was way up there. It's a
That's right.
cracking
Yeah, that's
American
right.
single malt whiskey
Their
producer.
cast strength.
Right?
There you go. Yep, remarkable stuff, man.
Yeah, good selection. And
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have one in my collection, because with all of my downsizing, I can add a new bottle. Huzzah!
All right, what's your whiskey of the year? I mean, here we are. We waxed lyrical for quite some
Yeah.
time. Most of it didn't even rhyme, despite the lyrical quality of it.
Which is how I know it's not true, because none of it rhymed.
Because it didn't rhyme.
There's my color for
All right.
you. Look at that.
Okay, so that
Oh.
looks like
Oh,
That looks like first fill bourbon goodness. There's
Bright, reflective
bright gold
even
quality,
a
amber.
Yeah, fleck of green in it. If you really use your
green in
imagination.
Put it. Yeah, bring it closer to me. I want to see that green if I can. Yeah, it's tough to tell on your side of the chalet. I guess I could be convinced.
Yeah, the fire's refracting in a funny way. I always say that about fires. They're always refracting. Refractors.
Mother refractors?
All right. So it's bright, it's gold, it's glistening, it's reflective. But back to the whiskey.
Oh my gosh, this Westward is... I'm pouring more, Jason. It's just so fucking remarkable. My gosh.
So
I'll tell you, just really quickly, hold on. I know you need to talk about yours. The gentleman that I mentioned before, I didn't give his name, is Fernando Castorena.
Indeed.
Hopefully I pronounced Nando's last name right. But he's the guy who's at the helm of Exec's Whiskey Club, and I know he had a part in the selection of that, and so I just wanted to put Fernando's name on this,
Nice.
that he is responsible for my Whiskey of the Year.
Well,
just remarkable stuff.
He chose a terrific Torridon from us, so I'm glad to hear he's choosing an excellent Pinot Noir
Hey, yeah.
from
Nice
Westward.
connection.
There you go. All right, well, hold on to your seats because my caveat is the same as your caveat, which is I believe this was released in 2022. I know for sure I only encountered it in 2022. So I'm using that as my get out of jail free card. You've got...
Was it Loch Dew that was released sometime in the 80s or 90s, Jess?
You've got a lovely golden color to it. The nose has got this wonderful sweet malt to it. Lovely, lovely cereal notes. There's some bright fruit in there as well. Maybe white stone fruits going on. When I poured this, the oil is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. So I've got legs that ZZ Top would kill for in this glass.
Is it cask strength?
I believe so. 50, yes. 50 plus. I don't want to give you too many details.
Is it single cask?
Is it single cask? I don't think it's single. It is not single, but it is a very small batch.
Interesting. So give me the nose again.
Yeah, so lovely sweet malt.
Yep.
Some white stone fruits.
Okay.
Maybe a wisp of smoke.
Okay. Interesting. All
It
right.
is.
So
But here's the thing, and I want to reiterate what you just said about how you award this. You return to it. You pour it in multiple moments. You share it with people. You discuss it with people. You enjoy it in a group. What I loved about hearing from Elijah and hearing from Jess, each of them talked about people, community, gatherings of whiskey nerds for the enjoyment of whiskey.
Yep.
It's not a solo enterprise. Even though there are moments when we'll internalize it, we'll analyze, right? We'll get a little bit nerdy by ourselves. The measure is sharing it, and my non-SCN Whiskey of the Year has also been shared and appreciated in a larger circle.
did you share it with me while Heide and her family were over during Thanksgiving?
No.
And there you go, listeners. That's our friendship.
This is what it looks like and sounds like when neither of us gets verklempt.
This is the sound of not getting verklempt one goddamn bit. Interesting. Okay. So
The palate,
it's sweet and malty.
the palate has a sweetness to it. And again, again, even though we closed the door on Elijah a wee while ago, I'm still getting a bit of a chilled whiskey here. This one also needs a little bit of a cupping to let a few more bits and bobs out of it. It has a salinity to the palate.
All right.
That it almost has a preserved lemon quality going on. When you take the citrus and you take that syrup and you take that saltiness and it all comes together, that's what I've got going on the palate. I did a huge Hatton pour on this and I've almost finished it.
So is this like the smell you'd get like if you squeeze the lemon till the juice runs down the leg, like Robert Plant always talks about?
Robert Plant knew. He absolutely knew. My whiskey of the year could easily be his whiskey of the year. Oh, there is a bit of peat as well across the palate and even into the finish. Yeah. There's an earthiness to it that balances some of the sweet, some of the citrus. The bright also brings a little bit of the dark. Yeah. Every time I finish a dram of this, I pour another one. Which sounds impossible.
But not for guests.
You would run out. You would run out of the bottle real quick.
Guests. Yeah, got it. Not for like best buds or anything. Okay. So my guess is that it is a Scottish single malt.
Negatory.
It is not a Scottish single malt.
Gasps
is it a single malt?
In Spanish.
Is it a single malt?
It is a single malt, yes.
It is a single malt. Okay. And it's not Scottish. But there's a hint of peat going on. But it sounds young because you're getting sort of a bigger malty presence.
Yep. It is a non-age statement, but my understanding is it would be young.
Is it from a country outside of the U.S.?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Is it from Eretz Yisrael?
It is.
It's from Israel. This is an M&H.
It is.
Your whiskey of the year is an M&H whiskey, and was it bottled by us?
Nope.
Okay, it wasn't bottled by us.
it's my non-SCN whiskey of the year.
But I would. Here's the thing, though, and I thought about. Jason, hear me out. Like Single Cask Nation is a very small part and parcel of the larger whiskey world. And I wonder if we would ever run into a scenario where our SCN whiskey of the year is also simply our whiskey of the year.
Well, doesn't fit within the rules we set up for our own game, but
it doesn't fit the rules that we set up for our own game, but it does fit the rules that we set up for why we bottle, right? It's shit we fall in love with. So, I mean, it does fit a set of rules.
And I was going to add this earlier, and I think Jess certainly illustrated this point. Not being up to date on every release that's happened in 2022 is so strikingly different from having tasted hundreds of cask samples. And to know what's happening at that distillery that hasn't been released, and this distillery that hasn't been released, and this other distillery that hasn't been released, right? It's a very different world when you're experiencing hundreds of single cask samples in your #humblebrag compared to, oh, that's what Balvenie put out. Oh, that's what insert here, Kilchoman put out, Penderyn put out, right? Like, it's a completely different world. And so I think that speaks to your point of there are things we've tasted that were knockout, drag out, hands down, incredible whiskies, but they haven't been released yet. Might see them in 23, might see them in 24, might see them in 2030. So this distillery is an example of a place where we know lots about what's happening in the warehouse, but we can only name a whiskey from what has actually been put in bottle and put into the marketplace.
There you go. Okay. Yep. All Fair stuff. All makes sense. Good. Okay, so first off, I love last year my whiskey of the year. Despite me saying I can't pick an Impex whiskey, a whiskey of the year from the Impex portfolio, I picked M&H Pomegranate, and I stand by that just as a whiskey lover. I love that you now have picked an M&H for your whiskey of the year. Small batch, so it tells me that it's likely an Apex bottling.
It is an Apex bottling.
And I want to say it's one of two. Can you show me the color once more?
Oh, you could look at my empty glass.
Wow, you really did like that. There's a hint of peat, so it's got to be, Jason. It's got to be the Dead Sea.
It is not.
It's not the Dead Sea. Okay, so when I first looked at the color, peat aside, it looked similar to the color of the cognac bottling. Mm-hmm. Apex Cognac, which is from Godet, which is a kosher cognac producer. And it's not the Dead Sea. And again, the reason why I thought it could have been the Dead Sea was because the Dead Sea did have a peated cask in there, if I recall. A slightly peated Apex, but it just put me out of my misery. Jason, what is it? He poured more.
Yeah, just so I could show you the color again.
So it doesn't look like the color of the fortified red wine, which has a peatiness to it, despite it being peaty. What is it, Jason?
Do you want to know why I didn't share this with you when you and your lovely, lovely family visited for Thanksgiving?
Oh my gosh, Jason, I know what this is. Holy
and why?
shit.
Tell our listeners, Joshua, why did I not pour this for you when you visited at Thanksgiving?
Because I think I own the bottling already.
And we poured it at Jack Rose. With various friends.
Yes.
Roberto, Brian, Amy, you, me. David actually already left at this point, so I will not name drop Dave. I will not name drop Dave Broom at this point.
Well, he totally name drops Dave Broom, but go on.
This is the M&H Apex release X Alba cask, which means a lot to a young fellow like myself. There is a 700ml bottle that you acquired for me, and on the day, November 5th, 2022, in Washington, D.C. at Jack Rose Dining Saloon, in the presence of friends, I said, you must acquire a second bottle of this for me.
That I did. I don't know if I did, but the good news is
I have been drinking
how remarkable.
this. You said this about Westward. I've been drinking this like there's no tomorrow. I have been hitting this hard, sitting with it, sharing it, pouring it when I watch a movie. And I've done in most years, I have revisited this, asking the question, is this my non-SCN whiskey of the year? Why is this my non-SCN whiskey of the year? And I keep answering that question in the affirmative, and I just keep finding reasons. I know on their label they went with X Alba cask. I know we have
white American oak.
I know we have spoken off the record with friends about the source of that cask, or the supposed source of that cask. Are we able to reveal that on the podcast?
Yes, you are. It was two casks married together that previously held Lechig. Right, which is unbelievable. It totally makes sense now.
Unbelievable. which is exactly why we poured it for Roberto at Jack Rose. Roberto and I.
He's a Lechig fetishist.
Our big Lechig guys, absolutely. And our Lechig palates tend to jive. And we always speak honestly on the podcast. He's an M&H skeptic. He's a Scotch guy through and through, and he likes older Scotchies as well. He likes some good sherry maturation on those Scotchies, but he also likes his Lechigs. And this M&H, and I think this happens for people who are skeptical about any distillery. It just takes one release, one cask, one combination of casks for you to go, oh, I've never thought to reconsider that distillery. And today I'm reconsidering that distillery. And Roberto got that moment with this bottling. To me, that speaks to a bottling of the year, right? Enjoyed as a group, discussed as a group, surprised a group, and got a skeptic to say, I'll reconsider that distillery going forward. I will have a much more open mind because I tasted this. I think that's excellent, and that's why I love the community aspect of whiskey. And you'd said it in your preamble as well, right? If we found a good Jura that fit our palate, if we found a Fettercairn that fit our palate, we'd sing its praises. We'd be on top of a mountain.
It could be almost cathartic,
right?
To not just find out that you've been, I wouldn't say that you've been wrong about something, but that you've taken a stance, and now you've seen that's been challenged, and you can say, okay, things are different now, and I thought about things one way, now I think about them another.
100%.
That's how we grow. You and I seem so sure about our whiskeys of the year.
Yeah.
I know in previous years we may have had a runner-up or two. I know I definitely did.
Yeah.
And there were definitely some other great whiskeys, but do you agree that the whiskey we each chose was so head and shoulders above that there's no runner-up this time around?
Yeah, I know we kind of played that game with Jess for sure. Gosh, some of our honorable mentions were remarkable.
Some of our honorable mentions had honorable mentions.
Unbelievable. And I know we tested the waters with Elijah about a runner-up, but yeah, I just love this Ex-Lechig M&H, this European release.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you for getting me a second bottle when you get me a second bottle, putting it on wax.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For everyone to hear and remember.
Yep, on wax. Yep, that's all good. Yep, that sounds
Nearly
good.
Finished this bottle based on Joshua getting me another one.
All right, just finish that. I'll get you another one, loud and clear. Please forget all of this. So now, Jason, we really need to answer Philippe Penavong's question. We have our final 3 whiskeys of the 6 whiskeys that we would put into a time capsule.
Yes, sir.
But then we need to talk about our episode of the year, of which I do have a runner-up, and there are reasons for it. But let's talk about the final 3 in our case of whiskeys. Did you want to start, or shall I?
You go for it. We last heard your 3, which were Lagavulin 16 and 2 others.
It was the Glenmorangie Margaux cask and then the Wild Turkey Cheesy Gold Foil.
Beauty. Those are 3 crackers. What an exciting time capsule to open up as a future generation.
Right? And so this next whiskey has a bit more to do with our story, similar to your selection with the Single Cask Nation Kilchoman.
Yep.
I really feel that the Single Cask Nation Aaron 12 Pinot cask simply needs to be in that 6-pack.
Wow, nice.
Besides the reasons I mentioned before, I think back to the time where we presented at Whiskey Fest, and there was this woman that came to our table, and she preceded the conversation, she preceded the pouring with the fact that she's with a magazine and she does whiskey reviews, and we're like, okay, try this Aaron 12-year-old in the Pinot Noir cask. And she promptly spit it out. And here we are, this fledgling company, in the presence of a woman who reviews whiskeys for a publication, and she spits her whiskey out. And I thought, that's it. We failed. We were wrong. Our palates are not correct here. And she pauses and looks at us, and she says, this is one of the most dynamic whiskeys I've had. Like, she spit it out because she was taken by this new series of flavors that she wasn't presented with before. This was the bottling that just told me we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that.
Yeah. No, it was a cracker. Absolute cracker. That's a good addition.
So that's whiskey number 4. Whiskey number 5. This is where my Jewish pride comes into play here. And back to the picking of whiskeys of the year. We're in the realm of M&H again. I think M&H Distillery are producing some of the finest single malt in the world. And their initial Apex bottling of the pomegranate wine cask just ticked the boxes, and I would argue opened up the eyes of many people to show that they're players, that it's not a shtick. It's not like, they are serious whiskey makers making world-class spirits that earn the respect of your whiskey of the year, my whiskey of last year.
Well, guess which little bottle of whiskey is in my travel bag here? Pomegranate cask. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's right, and this is what I love so much about global single malts, right? Discovering what these various countries can do and aim to do and are able to pull off. It's remarkable stuff. It's respectable.
Yep,
and
100%.
Yeah.
Well,
So there you go.
there's no argument over your inclusion of that.
Yeah.
None at all.
And then finally,
Number 6.
And I would
Was this a tricky?
And-
Was it tricky closing the door on the options?
It was. It really was tricky, because I would argue that this isn't necessarily the best whiskey in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely not the best representation of this distillery.
Well, you've sold me. Here's a shitty 6th bottling to send to future generations.
It's
You know
not a
nothing
bad-
about me, kids. Nothing.
It is a very good whiskey. But I think more importantly, it helps to paint the picture of my life.
Uh-huh.
And my life in whiskey, and it is the Keepers of the Quaich 1998 Talisker bottle.
Ah, yes. I drink it every
Right.
time I visit you. Every single time.
Right. And we celebrate with it,
Yeah.
not because it's the most amazing
Yeah.
Talisker.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly fine Talisker.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
Perfectly quaffable.
It's a fine whiskey,
Yep.
right? Very quaffable. But that was the bottling that came out just prior to me being a keeper, and that was the first. It was 2017, 2018, and I was made keeper in 2019, and that was the first bottling that I got as a keeper. And you know, some people hope to be keepers because, well, who knows what they hope to become keepers for. But for me, like, I feel it was work. And I feel like I worked to be within the Keepers of the Quaich, because it's a passion, because, like, I give a shit about Scotch whiskey, and I will not stop evangelizing it and teaching people and just preaching. And I just... For me, it was a recognition. It's a huge part of who I feel is me, and that's it. And this was the first bottling I got from them, so it's special to me from that perspective.
Yeah, it's a good addition. It really is. Yeah, I love dramming on it whenever I see you. It's, my bottle is sealed and stored away for a future generation. But enjoying your open bottle. But yeah, you're spot on. It signifies more than the whiskey in the bottle.
Yep. Right, and here's the thing. I would argue if people tasted modern-day Lagavulin 16, it'd be quite different from the 6-pack that I bought from 10 years ago.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
but it was so interesting to have Elijah put Lagavulin 16 into his 6-pack, and he was talking about 2017 or so, right?
I would argue it is still great, and it remains one of the best, more readily available Islay single malts. I would also argue that the price is shit. The price is terrible. It's too expensive. I won't buy a bottle. And I'm just being an honest person. There are plenty of other people to be buying the bottles. Part of the reason it's so expensive is people discovered it.
Yeah.
and now it's
right? Yeah.
the price has gone up because of the demand, right? So you don't need me to help the demand. It has the demand already, hence the price.
Somewhat amazing, though, to have a 16-year-old be your entry whiskey. And I don't mean that as a whiskey lover for you and for Elijah, but as a brand, there never used to be an 8. There never used to be a 12-year-old cask strength, right?
When's the last time the globe has cared this much about whiskey?
Yeah, never.
There really hasn't been.
Never.
Right? So a 16-year-old Lagavulin made sense. A 14-year-old Kleinlichen Oben made sense. These just make sense because it's prestige. You have it there. Most of your stuff is going to blend, but you can safely rely on having a good age-stated entry-level product. The world no longer reflects that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that I think Lagavulin 16 remains a remarkable entry-level whiskey for Lagavulin.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, with that said, allow me to transition to my final 3 for my 6-pack, and let me launch that with Lagavulin.
Whoa! Oh, I think I know what Lagavulin.
Yes, you do. 100%. It's easy peasy.
I actually chose not to select this one simply because we talked about it so much. Even though it is my favorite whiskey in the world, my 6-pack tells a story. But continue.
Yeah, no, and it's that story that this whiskey is telling for me. The 2007 release of the 21-year-old Lagavulin that seemed inordinately expensive at $200?
Yeah, it was like $225 maybe.
Right?
Yeah, pounds. Yeah, it was about £225 somewhere
Maybe
around there.
$250. Oh, really?
Maybe it was 200 pounds and it turned into $250.
Yeah, something like that.
Either
right?
way,
Right.
at the time in 2007,
An
you didn't pay
unbelievable
that
price
much for whiskey.
Unbelievable.
What were they thinking?
Crazy
price, right?
price.
Yeah.
Amazing whiskey. Absolutely amazing whiskey. And the reason that I went the opposite route from you and I did include it in my 6-pack was because of what we've said for over a decade now. What's your favourite whiskey? Depends on the season, depends on the day, depends on the company, depends on how I'm feeling, blah, 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 blah. That whiskey came along and I said, that's my favourite whiskey. It was the power of that period that really got it into my 6-pack.
Yep.
I love that. Absolutely love it. I also love the fact that the guy who put it in his 6-pack doesn't own a bottle, and the guy who didn't put it in his 6-pack does own a bottle.
The guy who does own the bottle is turning 50 in a year, so you'll be able to enjoy it again.
And the guy who's 6 months younger than him will be drinking a large share of that bottle. Bottle number 5 of my 6-pack
All right, 5. Oh, shit, that's right. That was your 4th. So we've got 2 more.
I'm feeling
Okay.
the pressure.
Yeah,
I'm
go
feeling the
ahead.
pressure. Here's the problem. I know exactly what my 6th is. No doubt about it. My 5th, I've realized I haven't included any Lechig. And I can't name one Lechig to go into the 5th spot. So
Huh. Okay.
I'm going to give you my 5th spot Lechig. And then I'm going to give you a runner-up for the 5th spot.
This is a bit of cheating, but like, what's this? Like a baker's half dozen? Like, what the fuck's going on?
I don't need an honourable mention, 7th position. I just need an honourable mention for the Lechig spot. That's all. That's all I need, Joshua. It's the festive season.
You know
Come
what?
on.
You know what?
Allow it.
It's Jason. I'm gonna allow it. You're my buddy. You're my work wife. I'm gonna allow this
Thank you.
shit.
Thank you. I feel beloved this day. So the one that I am putting in, okay, is a Lechig that I don't know if it started my independently bottled Lechig journey, but it's...
And that's the number one thing you follow, right?
Yep,
you
my
are a
number one.
Lechig
Yep,
collector.
yep. My Lechig
Okay.
is your
All right,
Imperial. Your Imperial is my
I just
Lechig.
want to put that out there. Okay. All right.
It cemented why I have such interest in independently bottled Lechig.
Oh, I think I know this already. It's the 1997 exclusive malts bottling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
15-year-old sherry
David
butt
Stirk.
put out by David Stirk that not only did we taste at his house, he then proceeded to gift me a bottle of it from his
Can we-
house.
Can we just agree here and now that David Stirk is a man among men?
A man among men. A
man
mensch
among
among mensch. Mention?
Menchim? No, it's Menchim. Mencho? No, Menchim.
This,
It's a mensch among menches.
I was loath to include this in my 6-pack for the worst of all possible reasons.
Yep.
This is a bottle I look for at auction because it doesn't exist in the world
Oh,
anymore.
yeah. Shh, don't say anything.
Right?
Don't say anything.
So, listeners of the podcast, I would really appreciate if you see this appear, please don't bid on it because I will be. But it's a first fill sherry hoggy, one of
You're still going?
341 bottles.
You're still going. Why are you telling people?
Because if they want to enjoy it too, that's perfectly fine. But it is amazing, amazing. And here's my thing.
All right.
I helped more than one friend source a bottle of this when you could still find it at auction. I even reached out to David, and I may have purchased a bottle directly from David that was his last one as well. I've probably purchased 5 of these, 6 of these in my life, and I've shared 2 of them. Like I've sold 2 of them at cost to friends who also loved it and were also interested in it. So given that one, yes, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, it was that visit to David's house, right?
Yeah.
He sold you the Lechig, and I had fallen in love with a 9-year-old.
He gifted me the Lechig.
I'm sorry, he gifted you the Lechig.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. At that same visit, I fell in love with a 9-year-old that he bottled. There was a space cider that rhymes with Schmel Schminny. And I visit that every now and again. I stand by
Dalwhinnie?
that selection. It wasn't Dalwhinnie.
Because that also rhymes.
And right, it gets back to David Stirk being a man among men.
No, it's
Just a mensch.
I love that 97 15-year-old Lechig, and I love the fact that he gifted it, and I love the fact that I've hit him up for bottles since, and I love the fact that I look for it at auction. It's such a good Lechig. My honourable mention for the 5th spot that could only be one Lechig.
Oh, that's an interesting label. Okay.
So this gives us a chance to talk about somebody else who is beloved to us. This is an Ollie Chilton selection for the Whiskey Exchange, but it speaks to more than that. It's a 13-year-old Lechig that has Billy Abbott's tasting notes. And Billy Abbott's tasting notes on it are remarkable. And
They're the reason I have a bottle.
right, and it's so
Great.
good. And the liquid 100% lives up to tasting notes. Billy Abbott writes, it's cask
Chocolate
900
limes, go on.
174.
Yep.
Billy Abbott writes smoky mango with a hint of TCP and damp grass. Chocolate lime sweets follow
There we go.
with licorice and rich peat. That's 100% correct. That's 100% what this tastes
The
like.
chocolate limes are so spot on. For the Americans in our listening group here, TCP, just think root beer, right? Root beer kind of nuts. Oh, Jason,
Root
you're
beer-
opening that, aren't you?
Root beer in an antiseptic ointment.
All right, I'm going to pour a little bit of that.
I have one or maybe two unopened bottles of the Whiskey Exchange Lechig here. I think I've got one or two unopened bottles of the exclusive malts 97 Lechig. These are easily my two most favourite Lechigs out of this world. And so then I will close this out very, very easily. And this is the most beautiful and the most delicious full stop / period I will ever put on a sentence.
Wait. Okay. Wow. Okay. Go ahead, Jason.
The 1953 58-year-old single cask Glenfarclas that got sent to us by our friends at Master of Malt, and I was not expecting it. It just simply appeared in my mailbox, and I opened it, and I didn't want to love it, and I did love it, and I shared it with my dad, and I had my dad share it with his best bud in Scotland. Impeccable whiskey.
Who knew that a 58-year-old whiskey would ever fall on your list of whiskeys that you want to be associated with your life?
Right?
Wild.
And
What was it about it?
it had the texture of velvet.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't overtaken by the wood. The Glenfarclas distillery was still represented in
Yes,
that
it was.
58-year-old whiskey. It was wonderfully in balance, and just like us choosing cask 666 from Virginia Distillery Company, it would be so easy to name a 58-year-old 1953 Glenfarclas as my favorite whiskey of all time. And that liquid lived up to every part of that promise. It was out of this world.
It's a remarkable whiskey. Absolutely remarkable whiskey. I'm so glad you brought it up. That was special, man. That was real special.
Right. So let me
I
see.
love that you shared it with your dad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Half of
Yeah.
my sample went off to him. That was, If I ever win the lottery, I would really like to pick up a bottle of that. It hasn't really accrued value. It was £6,000 when it was released. It still kicks around for about £6,000, which is an insane amount of money. We talked about the price of the Lagavulin and how that was expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That Glenfarclas is really,
But for
really
a 58-year-old
expensive.
whiskey in today's
Right.
whiskey, world, yeah.
I also feel like it kind of gets looked over. Like, yes, it's an old ass whiskey, but it's an old ass whiskey that comes from Glenfarclas, and Glenfarclas puts out tons of old ass whiskey.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you could hear it, but
is someone celebrating a Greek wedding in your house right now?
well, it's not the house. I mean, it's Heide in the kitchen in our Swiss Chalet just doing the dishes. I think she may be angry, right? Because this was meant to be our little getaway, and I just forgot to tell her you were coming over to do the...
Well,
and I didn't tell her about Elijah or Jess.
I would be happy to get out of here real quick. Do you want to talk about some favorite episodes, and then we can You and Heide can have your time in the hot tub with your fondue. I can get back down the mountain in
Mirrors
my
on the ceiling, whole
snowshoes.
thing.
You
Yeah.
know, let's
right,
get out
so-
of here on this.
So let's talk about episodes of the year. Now I did a bit of work. I really thought about this. I'll tell you what, Jason. The number one episode of the year, I didn't have to think about. I knew it was the number one episode of the year for me as we were recording it,
Oh, gosh.
as we were having our conversation with our guest.
Oh, gosh.
So my question to you is, what do you think my runners-up are? So I've got two of them.
Whew. It's a tough question because, like we continually discuss, time has stopped meaning a lot, and anybody who stops by to chat with us means the world to us, and
That's true.
we learn so much, and we've only started getting out and about a little bit more. It's been nice learning from people and dramming with people in person. That's been really cool. I could see your runner-ups going in multiple directions, right? Was it people you got to see in person? Was it somebody you'd hoped to talk to for a long time and you got access to them over Zoom, you know?
Okay, so runner-up number 3. We met him in person, and then we recorded over Zoom. And that was Jerry Duggan.
Nice.
You know, Jerry is responsible for some of the comics that I've just known and loved for a good period of time, and now I'm revisiting the X-Men because of him. Right? This is so. He's a Marvel comic writer who also happens to be a whiskey dork, and you know, all of the celebrities that we've brought in have been just that, celebrities, people of note. But none of them, until Jerry, are people who said, "Oh yeah, I know you too," right? And so there was something really nice about that sort of mutual level of respect. Though I would argue that my respect for him may be more than his respect for us, because what he's contributed to the world. In laughter, and it's just been great. So that's number 3.
That's a good one. I like that. I liked what you said about we met him in person and then we interviewed him on the podcast. That is spot on.
Yeah.
It's 100% true.
Yep. So the next one is a recording with 2 people. We've met one of them before, multiple times. And the other one, I don't think I ever met before. Perhaps you met him. Any ideas?
Nope.
So this is Sam Simmons and Dave Worthington of that boutique whiskey company.
That
Adam Brands.
must have been early doors 2022. When was
I want
that
to say
episode?
it was like episode 4-ish. I don't know.
Really?
I
Time
don't
means
know.
so little. Because I remember that interview with the 2 of them was a ton of fun.
I remember this is where you've decided to introduce a game. And just watching Sammy Simmons,
pro level.
he got so excited. And it was just getting together with friends, right?
Yep.
And I really liked that. And 2022 felt like the return to being with friends.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, no, well said.
And then finally, I don't think in our 6-year history, going on 7, in our 6-year history, that I've laughed this much in an episode with someone.
Go on.
He's not American. He is a Scotsman. He lives here in the U.S. His dad lives in Scotland.
Okay.
He is, in my
wait.
opinion, the person, one of a few, who can change someone's mind about the quote-unquote Death Star. Ewan Morgan of Diageo.
That was in 2022?
That was 2022.
If you told me that was 2020, I would have believed you. That was 2022?
It was this season, Jason. And oh my gosh.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. It was remarkable. It was like I listened back to it and I wonder, why haven't we had Ewan on earlier and why haven't we had him on multiple times? Because remarkable.
As soon as I get to the bottom of this mountain, I'm going to Google this to make sure. I just need to see with my own two eyes. It's not that I don't believe you. I just need to see the date with my own two eyes, because I really mean it when I say if that was 2020, I would believe you. That was season 6?
Yeah. That was season 6. That was Ewan Morgan.
Wow.
I love him more than I love most people.
Wow.
He's just good fun, good people. And he really cares so much, but he's not above himself.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's it. Like this whole year is like, where are the bright spots? Where are the bright spots?
For sure.
And that was a bright spot for sure.
Oh my gosh! Well, I tell you, it's always fascinating to me. We're so similar in our whiskies, and we've named so many similar whiskies today, and guessed the whiskies of the other throughout the episode. Your two runner-ups and your winner are remarkably different from my two runner-ups and my winner. Very different.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
So a couple of honorable mentions. I got to revisit with Amanda Beckwith and got to speak with Brian, warehouse guru down at VDC, and getting a follow-up interview with Amanda where we really pressed on from where the first episode had ended. And
that's nice.
Specifically focused on casks and really sat with the point we were making for a good amount of time, and then got to fold Brian into the conversation where Amanda and Brian are clearly partners in crime. They're just so awesome together. Such a beautiful professional relationship there. Seeing them, hanging out with them means so much to me. So I go from that side, maybe a little bit like Joshua Hatton here.
This runner-up number 3 then?
Right.
That's the third one? Okay.
It's honorable
Bronze medal.
But I go from that type of friendship to then our conversation with Brett and Orlin at Woodinville.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad you mentioned them.
Right?
Yeah.
Where we went into that Zoom conversation. They didn't know us. We didn't know them. We'd never visited. We'd never had conversations together. And it just fit. It was just so interesting and detailed and distillery focused. I've said this to you privately. When we go into some of these Zoom conversations where we've never met the person before, or person or persons, we're left thinking, how's this going to go? What's this going to be like? Is this going to be a good interview? Is this going to make for a good episode? And 9.9 times out of 10, we come out of those and we go, God, that was great, wasn't it? Like, wow, how did that go?
You, by the way, Jason, I'm so glad I brought this bottle to the chalet. And I know you've got 2 more lists that you need to, or 2 more people on the list you need to mention. But I brought with me to this chalet.
Oh, my Lord. Look at that bottle.
This is a Woodinville cask. Elijah actually went to the distillery and picked it up.
Did.
And it has my Instagram handle on it. It says Whiskey Cherub right on it. So this is their bourbon finished in Muscatel at 50% ABV. And I'm going to pour that in honor of Brett and Orlin.
To Brett and Orlin. Okay, so then my episode of the year, I was legitimately nervous, and I told the guest this, that I was legitimately nervous. I was legitimately shaky, and I had a quiet dram at 10 a.m. before conducting the interview, and unfortunately you were not with us for the interview. You were either traveling or sick or, I don't know, elbowed out by Jason. I don't know which one it was. It was one of the three.
Yeah, the latter sounds about right. Yeah.
It was one of the three. But I spoke with this author about her book, Ghosts of Eden Park.
Oh, wow.
And just like you're busy saying, when it came to Jerry Duggan and those comic books that you were reading that meant so much to you were authored by this chap, when I had read Ghosts of Eden Park, I blitzed that book, and I think I literally read it in 36 hours. Right?
Wow.
It was just captivating, and to have the opportunity to talk to the author. We talk to whiskey industry folk all the time, and I'm not nervous in the slightest. I do feel like if we ever got David Stewart on this podcast, I would be a little nervous talking to David Stewart, because he also comes from Ayr and is a fan of Ayr United, the soccer team.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
Right, and he has such a significant history with Balvenie that I would be a little bit nervous talking to David Stewart. He's also a quiet man, and in talking to quiet people, I'm always eager to fill the quiet space.
That's so funny. Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. Like, I wouldn't be nervous around him. I've told you this privately. Like, I get nervous around Dave Broom when we interview him.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I love the guy dearly. He's someone I look up to so much. Not that I don't look up to David Stewart. That's not what I'm saying. But there's something about Dave Broom that just makes me a little nervous when I speak to him. But, when we had David Stewart at the second Jubilee in 2013, I think it was, or 2014, whatever year it was.
If it was 13, it's when we put out the Heaven Hill.
So then it was the 13th, right? And he had pulled us to the side and said, the event you have here is really special. Right? And this is a guy that you looked up to, and he kind of, I think he's also smart, right? And he kind of evened the playing field. Like, he put me at ease way back when, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so if we had a conversation with him, I think I'd still be at ease. I'm just not always at ease with David, as much as I love him, because he's like, oh, he's fucking Dave Broom. That's why he's fucking Dave Broom. Anyway, continue.
So talking to Abbott, publishes as Karen Abbott, known as Abbott Kaler, or Keeler.
Not Billy Abbott.
Abbott Keeler.
She doesn't publish as Billy Abbott.
She does not. She's her grey parrot is Billy Abbott's beard. And I will leave the listeners to figure that out.
You'll leave me to figure that out, too. Anyway.
What's in your glass right now? You've got the Woodenville in your glass right now?
Yeah, I've got the Woodenville in my glass.
I just finished my my Whiskey Exchange Lechig 13-year-old.
What else did you bring in your bag? I mean, you could always have a pour of mine.
Yeah,
I mean, here we are together in the chalet, but, if you have your bag with you.
I do have my bag. It's across the room right now.
Your bag is across the room?
Yeah, my bag is across the room. Would you honor me, Joshua, by toasting the nation with this bottle that I brought in my little whiskey bag of magic?
Wait a second. Is that our Kilhoman 4-year-old?
I felt like having it as part of my 6 really meant I should have it as part of my travel bag as well.
Listen, you flew all the way to Switzerland.
Much to Heide's chagrin.
Much to Heide's chagrin. She was like, yay, we have a chalet together. No kids, no nothing. And then
No
they invited
cats.
you. I invited Jess. I invited Elijah.
They weren't even invited.
And
They
you-
were just walking by outside. That's the remarkable part of this.
I remember Elijah saying, "Is this where I get the Swiss Miss hot chocolate?"
That dude loves Swiss Miss hot chocolate. He also
also
loves
likes-
Kilhoman 4, and we never poured it for him while he was here. So there we go.
Well, there you go. So you know what? Let's you and I, Jason. I mean, I know we're going to enjoy this with Elijah and Jess and Swede Scott, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
At some point in person. But I think it's important that you and I, like you'd said, pour something from what got us started. So let's do that. Kilhoman 4-year-old, cask number 378, 2007. First fill bourbon, 4 years old. I'm going to read, thank you for bringing the full bottle. I'm going to read our truncated tasting notes that sit upon the label.
Absolutely.
So it says, a complex mixture of pine tar and spent shotgun shells, yet slightly floral.
Yet. It's poetry. Yet. Slightly
Poetry.
floral.
Viscous and briny, earthy yet sweet, with puffs of coal, smoke, and a long, oily finish. One of 245 bottles, 58.4% alcohol. Independently bottled Kilhoman. Here we are.
That's it. Yeah. Absolute treat. Absolute joy. Absolute pleasure.
It's the shotgun shells, man.
Well-
Listen, it's the shotgun shells, and when you nose it, it's like being on Isla in a warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
But with a wind blowing a hoolie outside, like that coastal sea breeze that's whipped up in it is aggressive. It's the coast of a Hebridean island. There's no mistaking it. And I love the fact that Jess had a Kilhoman in her 6-pack, and Elijah had a Kilhoman in his 6-pack, and I had a Kilhoman in my 6-pack.
I tell you, the only reason I don't put Kilhoman in my 6-pack is I don't want people to think that because I wear the Impex hat.
Nobody thinks that. Nobody.
Well-
Nobody thinks that. You're safe. You're safe. Heide is coming out of your kitchen with a rolling pin in her hand. I'm going to use this as my opportunity to get the hell out of here. I don't know what she's going to do with that rolling pin, Joshua, but I do not want to witness
I
it.
think that it's going to be incorporated into our lovemaking.
I hope there's sugar cookies incorporated into your lovemaking now.
Oof, and a lot of oil. Just a lot of like slippery stuff.
Here's to you. Here's to Jess. Here's to Elijah. Here's to everybody who made One Nation Under Whiskey what it was in 2022. Heide, thank you for having me over this evening. I'm going to leave the warmth of this fire and I'm going to go back out into the cold.
Okay, bye.
Wow, that is one of the most cutting things. Like when you don't get anything from Heide and she just says, what did you say again?
Okay, bye. Okay, bye.
You know, like I don't know who's more in trouble, if it's you or if it's me. Who's more in trouble, Heide?
Nobody's in trouble.
Heide says no one's in trouble.
Well, I'm certainly leaving, so cheers to all, and to all, a good cheers.
So Heide, you kind of scared Jason away with your rolling pin just now.
Yeah.
You get frightening with that rolling pin.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Well, anyway, Jason has left. I apologize he stuck around so long, and I forgot to mention that both Jess and Elijah were coming by too.
Yeah, you could have mentioned that.
I know. Sometimes I try to be a good husband. Sometimes it's not so good. Anyway, Jason and I recorded the entire episode. We hung out with Jess. We hung out with Elijah. But by the time we got to the end of the episode, we had drunk so much that we forgot to mention our listeners' favorite whiskeys. Some people emailed in. Some people wrote in on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I'd ask you to help out.
I'd love to help.
Yeah. Okay. So would you mind reading
I'm
this?
always happy to help when you and Jason get too drunk to do things. I'm always happy to help out with whatever mess you've left there.
Wow. I don't hear any venom.
Then I wasn't saying it right.
Would you be so kind as to maybe read this first email?
Yeah.
And so I would just mention the writer's name and the subject of the email.
So this is from Florian Tausch. The subject of the email is Top Whiskies of the Year. Hi, JJ, J, and E. Long-time listener, first-time responder. Ha, ha, ha. She's got a crying, laughing emoji.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Great episode. Nice to hear from Jess herself. Great conversation. My standout whiskeys this year have been outstanding for very different reasons. I was fortunate to taste and now own a Lag batch. Is that right?
LAGG?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's from the Lag Distillery. Yeah.
Okay, Lag Batch 2, which is such an amazing, punchy, and potent dram. Amazing for such a young spirit. Mm-hmm. Opposite site lives the Deanston. Is this right?
Let me see it. Let me see what you got. It says...
Opposite site lives the Deanston.
Yeah, I'm not sure if site is meant to be the word, but let's just carry on.
All right,
with it.
so opposite of that is the Deanston 2000 Organic 21-year-old. I love the mouthfeel of Deanston. That's what she said. And this is no exception. Very viscous, vibrant, sweet, dark, and dry fruits, character, and what's not to like there. Plus, thinking of the long view from the master distiller back in 2000 to produce a fully organic spirit and maturing it exclusively in organic casks. Chapeau.
So you and I went to the Deanston Distillery back in 2019.
We did?
Yeah, that was the distillery tour we did.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, and we did the whiskey and chocolate pairing.
Yeah, I liked the chocolate.
So do you remember the texture of the whiskeys?
No, I remember that there was chocolate, and I liked that part of it.
You didn't like any of the whiskey?
No.
I feel like there was one you kind of liked.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, that's kind of a nice thing. You got a little connection to whiskey. Mm-hmm. All right. Did Florian say anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Thirdly, a cheeky, cheap, and cheerful sipper, totally unexpected, and hence blew me away. Black Bottle, the Alchemy Series number 3,
yeah.
Andean Oak, true to your motto, open on Friday and recycle on Monday. Obviously, # drink responsibly. I get a lot of nuts and maple syrup and saves you a few extra pennies to buy another stunning SCN bottle. Cheers, Flo.
That's very nice. I feel as if you may have...
Screwed that up?
No, you're right. I thought you mispronounced something, but you didn't.
Huh.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then we also received an email from this is good. So we received an email from Ben Homan, who was mentioned earlier in this podcast, by the way. And Ben had read his top 3 list. And he says, in no particular order, the top 3 list for me this year, and then in parentheses he says, I'm going to use the Joshua rules for this. VDC by a little company you may have heard of called SCN. There you go.
I've heard of them.
That was Jason's whiskey of the, Single Cask Nation whiskey of the year, by the way. Yeah, did you know we choose Single Cask Nation whiskeys of the year?
Let's just say yes. Of course, I know that.
And then his second whiskey, this is the runner-up, is the 1986 Johnny Walker Red from the Virgin Islands. And then his third whiskey, and this is so great because this was my whiskey of the year, Heides.
Whoa.
The Westward Pinot Noir Cask Execs Whiskey Club Bottling.
Huh. Great minds.
Yep, great minds indeed. So there we go. And you see the picture he sent, that was from my house. That's our blue plate.
Oh,
Do you recognize
that
our blue plate?
Yeah, I recognize that cup in the background too with the orange flowers on it.
Yeah. So there you go. So thank you to Florian. Thank you to Ben for writing in. And then we had received some Facebook notifications of
Some people's top picks for the year.
some people's top picks. Do you have top picks of like anything? Like, do you rate anything?
No.
There's not a single thing you rate.
What would I rate? Prosecco. I'm a pretty cheap date.
That's true. You're a cheap date.
I don't go for fancy schmancy. So, and I'm not very interested in trying lots of different things and comparing and contrasting. I just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I find something that's good, I just kind of stick with it. And then all my crafty stuff, I don't know what I would,
Yeah.
my top yarns of
What are your top
22?
yarns of 2022?
Actually, I would have some top yarns.
Boom, let's hear it, babe.
I'm not going to tell
Come
you
on.
my top yarns.
People, the listeners want to know.
I will tell you one of them is Plenty from Pearl Soho in New York.
And what do you like about it?
It's a nice cushy wool to work with. It's not itchy, and it's what I've been making those bandana cowls out of, and it's nice and squishy and soft.
Okay. That's not that you don't use that same yarn for your grieving blankets?
No. I do make blankets for friends who... No, the grieving blankets are ones I order online. Grieving blankets... When somebody, are you going to keep all this in?
Yeah.
Okay. So when somebody that we know suffers a loss, which unfortunately has happened quite a few times over the last couple of years, instead of sending flowers, we send a nice
blanket.
a nice
Give 'em a little
blanket.
comfort.
So
Yep.
it feels like we're sending a hug instead. There's a whole other blanket series, the blankets that I've been knitting myself. Mm-hmm. And those aren't grieving blankets. Those are more like support blankets. So people who are going through something that maybe they just need a little extra bit of support, I knit them a blanket.
Okay. You're very sweet.
I am very sweet. You're not wrong.
So we have some people on the Face Place who had written in their favorites. And so basically what we had asked was people to list their favorite single cast nation bottlings, maybe their favorite non-single cast nation bottlings of 2022. And if they had a favorite episode, they could have listed that as well.
Okay.
So we've got Michael Singer, whose top SCN whiskey was our 12-year-old Wild Turkey, which was very nice.
Okay.
And his non-SCN whiskey is a Starlight Cigar Blend Rye.
Okay.
And we have Eric Shao here. Do you want to read Eric's?
How do you pronounce his name?
I think it's pronounced Shao.
Shao. Okay. You know my bourbon-loving ass is obsessed with your cask strength. WT. Wild Turkey?
Wild Turkey.
Wild
Good job.
Turkey picks. Joshua Hatton. My choice is the SCN Wild Turkey 9-year.
There you go. Mm-hmm. What else we got? Who else is reading things?
We also have Ben Homan, whose favorite SCN pick is the VDC.
Oh, he wrote it in his email.
Oh, the VDC sherry finish.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
voted twice basically.
Yeah.
That's how good it is.
That's how much he loves it. Okay, we've got Tom Hankins.
Okay.
His SCN top pick is Catoctin Creek 4-year-old ex-Kilhoman PX cask.
There you go. Good job.
I did it.
Yay.
He says luxurious, unctuous, layered with blackberries, cherries, spice, pipe shop, faint wood, smoke. You know what that word unctuous does to me?
What does unctuous do to
It
you?
makes me check out entirely. When you guys start talking whiskey, when the word unctuous comes up, I'm out.
Is that it? That's what sets you off? Unctuous?
Unctuous.
Would you-
I'm just not even participating in that conversation. Once unctuous happens, I'm out.
Because it sounds pretentious?
Kind of. And I don't know what it means. I don't want to know what it means.
Wow, you chided me for not knowing the word daunting some 20 years ago.
I didn't chide you. Oh, I guess I did.
You did judge me.
It made me judge you.
It totally made you judge me.
I know. But we got past
We
that.
did get past
We worked
that.
through it, babe.
We did. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to hear more from Tom Hankins?
I always want to hear more from Tom Hankins.
Okay. So his non-SCN pick is New Riff 6-year malted rye.
Oh, yeah.
Do we know what this is?
So it's a New Riff 6-year malted rye. So that's interesting, though, because we talk about, and by we I mean me, talk on the podcast about my general dislike of malted rye. And
okay.
And so to hear someone claim a malted rye as their favorite non-SCN whiskey of the year, it makes me want to check it out, because this is Tom, right? Tom Hankins?
That's correct.
Right. Good Nation member. He right. People who buy our stuff tend to share our palates. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that he likes this thing that I typically don't like, because we share a palate, it makes me want to check it out.
Would you like to hear his thoughts on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So he says, we stopped by the distillery this year and spent a wonderful long weekend in Cincinnati. The malted rye is a worthy experiment, working between softness and spiciness. Would love to see a relationship with SCN develop if it's in the stars.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that too. We love New Riff. So we shall see.
Okay, and his wild card pick is a tasting of Fruit Eau de Vie from Capriolus Distillery. Do we know this?
We don't. Can I see the spelling?
Capriolus.
Capriolus.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like. Okay.
It blew my mind. I encourage anyone to take the leap on a 375 milliliter if they find one.
Beauty. Oh, awesome. Oh, I love all these people writing in, sharing their favorites.
Bob Hickey says the Diluane?
Try it again.
Diluane.
Daluan.
Daluan?
Yeah.
All right. Bob Hickey says the Daluan was the best of the year by far. Yum. I added the extra nom 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 nom.
That was my favorite SCN whiskey of the year. So
Oh, yeah?
Bob and I have similar palate there. Thank you, Bob.
Mike Medlin says, not sure if it was released this calendar year or not, but my favorite bottle I had this year was an Adelphi Ben Nevis 5-year.
Oh, I think that
Adelphi?
was... Yeah, Adelphi and Ben Nevis 5-year. That was a sister cask. Ben Nevis had released some 5-year and some 6-year-old casks. We bottled a 6-year. They bottled a 5. I think that was 2021, but hey, if he tasted it in 2022... Like, that's his whiskey of the year.
Yep.
Awesome.
Then there's lots where people posted pictures, and I can't tell what they're like
Okay.
pictures of
All
your
right, let me
bottle
do that.
labels.
All right, so we have Fernando Castorena. By the way, Fernando is the guy who picked the Westward Pinot cask, which was my whiskey of the year, and Ben Homan's third whiskey of the year.
Right on.
So his favorite was a single cask nation Torridon, which he selected for his group execs whiskey club.
Nice.
So that checks out. So that's good. Thank you for that, Fernando. And then Ian Bruce from Bonnie, Scotland. His favorite SCN was our Daluane 8-year-old released for ROW, Rest of the World. His non-favorite SCN is the...
Non-SCN favorite.
Non-favorite SCN? Oh, yeah.
Not 9.
His non-SCN favorite,
Yes.
Thank you, Heide, was the Ardnamurchan Cask Strength, which is, he's got good taste right there.
All right.
And then, he adds another one, new favorite release, the Lochley Our Barley, which, that's exciting stuff. It's exciting for me for two reasons. A, Ardnamurchan has made it into my top 5 distilleries, period.
Wowie.
I'm in love with them.
Okay. Calm down. You're married.
All right. But both Ardnamurchan and Lochley are part of the Impex portfolio.
La la la.
Yeah, so there you go. And then Ian has more. These are more like honorable mentions. He says, would say the best blend was between Thompson Brothers SRV, which I guess is Stevie Ray Vaughan 5.
I would assume so.
Or the Glasshouse blend by Loch Lomond. And here, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ian, by the way. I appreciate you writing in.
Elisa Harden Rose says that this is really difficult having to pick. She lists SCN Torridon, SCN Wild Turkey 12-year, SCN McMira,
Yep.
and the SCN Virginia Distillery were my faves this year.
That's awesome.
Michael Besley says that the favorite SCN he tasted in 2022 was the Ben Nevis. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Ben Nevis. Yeah, you
Ben
got
Nevis, 1996, 20-year-old.
I just got a bottle
Yeah?
of that. A Nation member found one at a shop, bought it like 2-3 years ago for me, and has been holding on to it. And I
Oh,
just
that's
got
nice.
It. Yep, really nice of him.
And thank God you got more whiskey. Okay. His favorite SCN release from 2022, favorite that he tasted in 2022 was the Ben Nevis 1996 20-year-old.
Yeah, there you go. That checks out. That makes sense. Okay.
Michael's favorite SCN release from 2022 was the Virginia Distillery Company 5-year. Yes?
Virginia Distillery Company 5-year?
Yeah.
There you go. That's it. How many times have people mentioned the VDC?
Babe, I literally don't know. Never? A lot? Somewhere
lot.
between the two?
Remember
I don't know.
Ben Holman listed it. Elise, you just read Elise.
Oh, sure. Okay. And Michael says his favorite non-SCN is just too hard to say, but I love what, oh boy, Ardnamurken has put out this year.
Good job, babe. Arden American.
Yeah?
Well done, you.
I did it.
Yay. Dun, 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 dun.
Ford Ray shares
Oh, Ford's a good dude. Yep.
favorite SCN by far, all caps, and then in parens says, which I've never said before, so I guess this is saying something, is the 14-year-old Beanley rum.
The Beanley rum. That's such an amazing pick, and I saw him post that. The fact that someone called out in our Australian rye it just blew my mind. Really happy for that.
Australian rye. Oh,
Did I say rye? I meant rum.
Rum. We
Boy.
haven't gotten to the rye yet.
Yeah.
His favorite non-SCN, Homer pick. What does that mean, Homer pick?
Yeah, I don't know what a Homer pick is.
Okay, so his Homer pick is Blaum Brothers 7-year rye Young Guns pick.
Maybe it's like a homer, right? It's like a home run.
I don't know, but then he's got a non-Homer pick. Mayor Pingree 7-year MGP Bourbon Jumpman pick. Do you know what that is?
It kind of sounds like people who are making cask picks, right? There are people who are known for making good cask picks, and you
Yep.
kind of follow them. So I wonder if Homer or this other person are of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know.
How about Matt Skinny Roberts?
Oh, Matt Skinny Roberts, yes.
So his SCN pick is Oishi. It was just odd and a fun one. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. Oishi, that's our whiskey from Japan, and that's whiskey from rice and koji. That sort of mold.
Ew.
No. It's good.
Okay.
Like you've had soy sauce before, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that has
And love
that's
it.
made with koji.
Okay,
So,
all right, calm
there you
down.
go.
Okay. And then he says, now, while it may seem biased, this whiskey was released before my time, so I can make zero claims on it. Copperworks RO42, Washington peated. It is just so unlike any other peated whiskey. I'm really looking forward to the future WA peat holds.
Washington Pete.
Washington
Yeah,
Pete.
so Skinny, I told you before, he used to be with Black Raven Brewing, and he's now joined Copperworks
Oh,
Distilling.
okay.
Yep.
And we got a nice holiday card from Skinny.
From Skinny and Meg, and their 2 pups.
Yes.
Yep.
The 2 dogs with the very artistic looking out into
Yeah,
the distance
I love
picture
that.
of them. Yes. And that's it in here.
There's one other thing that I wanted to add here. Someone wrote in on the One Nation Under Whiskey Facebook group, and that is Bill McIntosh, or Bill Mac, as we lovingly call him. And his pick for the year is the Daft Mill 15-year-old, or any Daft Mill, to be honest. Sounds like we have a favorite distillery on our hands. So there you go. So thanks to Florian and for Ben for emailing in, and then for everybody who chimed in on Facebook, both in the Single Cast Nation group and the One Nation Under Whiskey group. Thanks to you, Heide, for filling in for Drunken Jason.
Oh, I'm happy to fill in for Jason.
And for listing
Playing
out...
the role of your wife.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
thank you.
happy to be your wife for a bit.
And thanks for listing out your favorite yarn of the year.
Yeah, sure.
I look forward to hearing your 2023 pick for yarn.
Oh, it's going to be spicy.